Here, I clicked the button, so we're going live. Welcome to episode 17, MRJ. You want
Yo, what
to
up, dude?
do a plug and like an intro?
Um, I don't have anything to plug. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at M_R_J_Smith. Um, Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Hit me up on there.
Awesome. You basically live the agorist life, eh?
I think I do, other than, man, I wish I had a tripod. I'll just hold it. Basically, other than, I think my weak spot is having something that I can produce like 100% from my own resource streams. So when I think of like moving forward, considering all the stuff in this like coronavirus era, actually, let me try propping up my phone. That's probably way better.
I mean, it's not side. I don't know how it went sideways, but now it's right set up. But you got her.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying the shakiness. I just propped it up. Hopefully this doesn't fall. Anyways, moving forward into the like post coronavirus world, people are talking about like this new financial system and all that stuff. One thing that people really need to do, and I'm trying to step my game up on this, is like have something that like skills, knowledge, products, something that you can produce like 100% from your like capital, so to speak. This is like capitalism, it's like capitalism at its finest. It's like you have certain stuff, you've got like money, or maybe you don't, you've got like property, or maybe you don't, you've got like assets, stuff, items, you've got all these different things, and those can be leveraged for you can like translate those into value. And I have like a lot of skills, a lot of different things, but I think you need to have like one specialty that you have like complete control over. So like firewood would be an example of this. It's like there's trees everywhere. Like I have a chainsaw, I know how to do it. I have a truck, I have a tractor, I have all the stuff that you would need. Like I don't need like any external inputs, because as we're seeing with all this like supply chain stuff, I think like the communities are going to get like way tighter and way more local, kind of like farmers market stuff, that everybody needs a place to like fit into that local economy. And if you had, like, imagine for a second you lived in a city where there was like somebody who did firewood, somebody who grew food, somebody who like knew about like well drilling, somebody who could do septic systems, somebody who knew about electricity, somebody who knew about, you know what I mean? There was like, if within your local community you had a person or several people competing, if your community was big enough, that could like literally do everything, like cover the basics,
Yeah,
then it's like,
self-sustained.
because there's this thing like preppers and stuff, they all talk about, like, oh, I've got like 10 years worth of food stocked up and like 100,000 gallons of water in like a cistern or whatever, and all this stuff. But it's like, okay, that just by its very nature has like a limited time span to it. It's just like, take however much you have, divide it by however fast the rate is you use it, and then that's how much time you have until you're screwed. So thinking about it from like a permaculture perspective, you really want to like value diversity, and that's like at an individual level and a societal level. So like on my property, I try to be as self-sufficient in every area as possible, but also I need like one main one that I can export to the community. And that's what I'm working on right now, especially in light of all this stuff. I'm trying to think of like, what can I do that I can just like, that I can be the best at, and that like I can just pump out and be super efficient, and then be able to like put a ton of this value, this like resource into the economy and the local economy, like for cash or for crypto, even better, because it looks like cash is going to get, banned, at least in the US. I know you're in Canada. So I'm surprised it hasn't already happened to you. But here in what's that?
Where were you at in America?
Idaho.
Idaho. That's the one below Alberta, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Like right on the edge of BC and Alberta.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. The skinny one with the big part at the south.
Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah. So that's where I'm at. And it's a pretty nice place to live, I enjoy it, but just getting that local economy going, and because like right now I feel like I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, and I want to change that to jack of all trades, master of one. You know what I mean? Like you've got your one thing, just that like is something everyone needs, like it covers a basic, you can barter with it, you could sell it, you can do whatever. I think going forward, people, it's just really disappointing seeing how people are spending their time on lockdown. It's like they're playing video games and just like
just sitting at home.
Just sitting at home. Well, I mean, some people have to sit at home or you'll like get arrested or whatever. But just sitting at home doing nothing as opposed to like learning or trying to do something, just something that could like, regardless, because like the narrative, I try to live my life in a way where it doesn't matter what's true or not. Like to how I live, to how I choose to live, this is super important. And this is like totally key to my philosophy, is that regardless of whether coronavirus is like everything that they say it's going to be, I'm talking about like the standard narrative here, it's this like horrible virus that's going to kill everyone, like stay home, the whole 9 yards, whether that is true, whether that is completely a lie and it's all a conspiracy theory, whether the truth is somewhere in the middle, it shouldn't matter to how you choose to live. Like you should design your life so that in every single situation you win. And to me, like growing your own food, doing things for yourself, like trying to get off grid if you can, learning new skills, just expanding yourself, like regardless of what happens, it doesn't matter, like you're gonna win. And I just see I see so much despair, all these people getting super negative, and it's just like, no, like that's the worst thing you could do, don't do that. Just like think of like the time to despair is over, you know what I mean? Like we're headed into a new era. The time right now is to like man up.
It's like how Schuster says it's the peasant 2.0.
Exactly. Well, it's like peasant. It's peasant like 5,800 now. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
humanity has been through this exact same, not like
just a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Like history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And humanity has been through this so many times before, and like we've always made it through. And there's like the remnant or whatever, and we go and try to make the world better, and then like the bad guy comes and they try to make the world worse, and it's the yin and the yang, the wheel of fortune. It's just the story, like it couldn't be any other way. This is panning out. The more this pans out, the more you see it couldn't possibly pan out any other way.
That's really good you say that. I agree. It's exactly what is, it's just nature.
Exactly. And like that's the thing with permaculture. It's like observe and interact and look at the patterns that govern nature and model your systems after them. So it's like, oh, I'm noticing this pattern that I've seen like thousands of times throughout history. Like, what do the people who win do? And what do the people who lose do? And like, I don't care what anyone else does. That's the thing. Like, you're free to choose whatever you want to choose. If you want to go like full socialism, or you want to go like full like Republican or full liberal or whatever, like go for it. But I know like this pattern is so clear. It's like it would be similar to disrespecting the law of gravity. Like nobody disrespects gravity. Like they understand at some level, except for you disrespected it. But you see, you suffered the consequences, and I hope you learned your lesson.
I sure did. I have a dead obvious fear of heights now. I was up on the ladder and it was like, whoa, can't do that anymore. I just remember.
Yeah. But you see, like, no matter how many times people, like, it took you one time of getting screwed by gravity to be like, now you have a fear of heights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but no matter how many times we get screwed by disrespecting the pattern of this like cycle, we like we're gonna keep repeating it. Like we won't learn our lesson. Like literally 100 years. It didn't even take us 100 years before we're repeating the exact same mistakes that we made in the 20th century. Like almost like on cue, like 100 years, like exactly. It's just like shifting along.
While people are joking about it being the new 1920s, we just did it. It's
It couldn't be any other way. Like it has to be that way. And when you understand that, you know exactly what's going to come next, and you plan your life accordingly, and that's what we've been trying to do. So
do you have a lot of land that you work?
we've got like 5 acres, which is more than I'll ever be able to touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really see, I think Bill Mollison, it was either Bill Mollison or it might have been Jeff Lawton, his like number one right-hand man or whatever. They said like, a design is never complete because you can always think of one more plant that you could fit in somewhere. You know what I mean? Like if you look hard enough, there's going to be some little gap that you could put a plant that maybe it's like a tiny little plant, but it does something. Like you don't even need to know what it does, but it just like, it's some tiny little flower that it's an ephemeral and it comes up once a year, on one day, like those desert flowers. And like maybe those flowers coming up are like what give the bees just that extra tiny boost, like the one day of pollen that they need, that like saves the lives of like 100 bees in the colony. But since over the winter their numbers shrink so much, those extra 100 bees create like exponential value. It's like you never know, and there's always just that one extra thing that you could do to just shore up your design. So yeah, we have 5 acres, but it's like maybe like 2 of it is usable in the sense of below like 5% grade or whatever, what people would consider flat. Like we've got a lot of terrain, but we've got like a stream, a year-round stream, which is huge. And that's like one of the main reasons we bought it, was because, you know, we live in the Western United States and the summers are like scorching, dry, just like bakey. We call it the bake. You know, there's not 4 seasons where we're at. There's like 12. We have like little sub designations. Like there's the midwinter thaw. It's not winter. There's like early winter, winter, midwinter thaw, late winter. I'm sure, you know, you guys have similar terms. And spring, it's like mud season, or like early spring, mud season, late spring. And they all have like super distinct vibes. So, but during the summer when it's so dry, it's like dusty and dry. Like the sun just like imposes on you, you know, it just like blazes you out. And having that water is really important because like it's like crystal clear and sunny every day. And water is going to be the limiting factor on like how your plants can grow. So from a permaculture perspective, like a well and, you know, having like a 500-foot deep well and using electricity to like pump this water up, that's just not what we're about. And, you know, having the year-round stream, like putting a ram pump in there up to a water tower and having that water tower like go to drip irrigation on everything. It's like, that's what you're about, you know, like passive systems, resilient systems. There's only one moving part in the entire water system. There's only a single moving part, and that's a valve that just like goes like this, you know, or it actually goes like that. But you know what I mean? It's like there's nothing to break. There's nothing to break. You bury the water lines. They're like encased, just surrounded by earth. It's like they're not gonna break. There's nothing that's gonna like shift them around unless you have a earthquake or whatever, and you're like right on a fault line. It's just like completely indestructible, and that's just the way. That's the direction we need to go, because regardless of what happens, you can't lose. Like, what is could you list a single con of that system other than the fact that you have to install it?
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's it sounds sweet to have your own land, and with the water, that's awesome. You could do anything with all the land resources. That's awesome. Um,
Well, and like Shudra was talking about, you know, if you have enough trees, you pretty much can do everything. I mean, not so much anymore because now they have satellites and airplanes, and now they're going to move to drones, I'm sure, flying around, you know, looking overhead. One reason we moved here as opposed to other places is because like we were looking in other states like Minnesota, and I was talking to some neighbors of some property that I was looking at, and they're like, oh yeah. I was like, if I wanted to put a pond in, could I just like dig a pond? Like, would anyone care? And they're like, oh no, like they fly airplanes around, and you know, they take note if they see a new pond, and they'll come after you. And it's like
what?
I don't want to be a part of that. So we're
That's
pretty
too bad.
lucky. Yeah, until the federal government comes in, because then at that point it's like
Yeah.
you can't do anything basically.
Because I was literally about to ask, you could dig a pond and then, you know, use some stream water and fill it up. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, that I intend to do that actually. There, like, the stream comes down, and then there's like a big flat spot, and then it keeps going down. And I was just gonna dig that entire flat spot out. You know what I mean? It would just like basically widen the stream and then narrow it again, and it would fill up, and it wouldn't be changing the flow rate or anything. It'd be exactly the same. It would just like increase the capacity there, and you know, throw some fish in there, just have
Yeah.
like swim in it, you know, that'd be awesome.
You could even just dig one somewhere beside it, low down where you were saying, and then dig two little channels, one in and one out, and then it would be the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. And on one of the channels, I would put like a little dam and put a micro hydro plant on it. That's a goal. Because if I can get a micro hydro plant, then we will be like 100% energy independent. Like we will be able to run any electric device we want, never have to worry about electricity. It would be like essentially the same, all of the pros of being off grid, but none of the cons. It would just be so awesome because we have a pretty good site on our place for micro hydro. It's like kind of like a waterfall. It's not like a like Niagara Falls waterfall. It's more of like a
It's a
just like a big
downgrade
rock.
to like,
It's a
you know,
downgrade.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's sweet.
but it's like it's a pretty straight shot. So if I did the calculations measuring the flow and the drop, and I could get about 250 watts continuous. Just imagine what you do with 250 watts, 24/7, 365, maybe like 330 because it would be frozen for part of the year here. But we're nowhere near as cold as you guys. You guys have it way worse than us. Like the coldest it ever really gets here, -12 was the coldest temperature that I recorded all year.
Is that in Fahrenheit?
Celsius. Don't you Canucks use Celsius?
I was just wondering if you were being American about what that was. And I don't know what -12 Fahrenheit is. Is it
I don't know
cold?
either. -12 Fahrenheit would be like super cold. That'd be really, really cold. That'd probably be like minus like 20, like -25 Celsius probably. And I
Like what it
know,
is here most of the
yeah,
time in the winter.
in I lived in Alaska for a while and it would get like super cold in Alaska, like -40. And I know -40 C and F are the same.
Yeah, that's where it levels
So
out.
it's somewhere in that
Somewhere in
range.
there.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it sounds nice down south, but you know, each have their own problems, obviously.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the thing is like Thomas Sowell, the economist, you know, he famously says in economics, there's no like right or wrong decision. There's only trade-offs. And, you know, sometimes like with Shudra, for example, being in Australia as like a huge counterpoint, you and I are like basically similar. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah,
little different, but you're probably like, you know, a 6 or 7 hour drive from where I'm at. And, the just like
yeah.
comparing that to Australia, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wish I could grow a banana tree or like a papaya or whatever he's growing over there, all that crazy stuff. But then it's like the like snakes in his chicken coop and like, you know, all that other
Holy
crap.
shit. He sees these like monitor lizards that look like dinosaurs.
Yeah. And it's just like,
Crazy.
I'm not into that.
No, that's freaky. Or a
And
spider the size of like a loaf of bread.
oh, I know, dude. Count me out of that. We do have here, we have black widows and brown recluses, but that's like seriously the only thing you need to worry about. And they're both pretty rare.
Yeah.
The black widows are only at the like really low elevations, and the brown recluses are way more widespread. But I've never actually seen one. Every spider that I see crawling around, I like look at it hoping that it. Well, that's actually the interesting thing because every spider I see, I like look at it hoping that it's a brown recluse. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, it could like mess you up. So maybe the snakes and stuff aren't that bad and it's kind of charming or whatever. I guess as long as you show them respect, they won't mess with you.
I guess. I mean, North America. Sorry, I'm coughing right now, and it's hard to talk. I gotta get a drink of water. Sorry, I will press pause.
I understand.
I totally ruined your flow there. I
Cheers, by
apologize.
the way.
Cheers.
I don't know if you have anything to drink. I'm drinking some leftover. I got this for St. Patty's Day. I still haven't finished. This is the last one, but it's like, it's pretty good. Bayern. I don't know. Killarney red lager. You can't go wrong. You gotta have that corned beef and cabbage, in my opinion. It's like pretty much a sin not to. I don't know. And some Irish beer.
Yeah, I mean, I should do a shot of Jameson.
There you go.
Fucking headphone cord is just slightly too short.
Dude, I will tell you a secret here. Let me see if I even have it. All right. I don't have it with me, but this was a secret weapon, because I don't know if you can see this, like behind me.
Yeah.
I've got a recording studio. I'm just chilling upstairs where my recording studio's at. And that problem pissed me off.
Can I ask you a question? Is that
Yeah.
like log construction in the octagon?
No. So it's a hexagon because it's six-sided. Yeah. And it's actually like post and beam framed. So it's just like logs, like rough logs, the bark peeled off. But other than that, they're not squared up at all, like on a foundation, and it builds the skeleton. And then all the walls are stick framed with, they're stick framed with like custom milled lumber. It's like true nominal thickness 2x6s. So they're like quite a bit beefier than your normal 2x6. And really just, and that makes actually a really big difference. I really like it. If to anyone out there who's listening, if you're thinking of building, try to find just some local G with a sawmill to just saw you up some stuff. If you have some trees on your property, just like thin the property and clear it, like your spots for your buildings. Bring all of those trees to some dude with a sawmill, or have him come there if he has a portable one.
Or you could possibly find some sort of like build it your own sawmill. I've seen some of that. I haven't looked into it enough because that would be really cool. But I mean, I don't have land, so.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that about you, how you have just like all these files for like all of these machines and stuff. It's like, oh, here's the CAD file for a power hammer. And like, oh, here's the CAD file for like a changeable belt sander. And you like have all these things. And I appreciate that because I'm like that too, like in a perfect world, I would love to do everything myself, just have my house like from top to bottom be 100% just like of my own, like raw materials that nature gave us to finished product. But at a certain point, I'm realizing like, man, there's only so much you can do. And being a like jack of all trades, master of none will only get you so far. That's why before I was saying, I'm trying to transition to jack of all trades, master of one. And, this whole coronavirus thing is really like forcing me to be like, what is your like one? You know what I mean? Because I've got so many different things going on. And that worked great in the like previous era. You know what I mean? I probably had like 10 different side hustles that each individually made like not that much money. You know what I mean? Just like a couple things here and there, but there were so many and of completely different things that they all just kind of added up. And I'm just realizing like in what's to come, you're really going to want that like one thing that you can just like a factory, you know what I mean? Like that's
it's always there. It'll always produce some sort of like wealth, even if it isn't money.
And like super efficiently. That's the thing. The problem is like, and I realized this from blacksmithing, is that like at this point I have like enough blacksmithing skills, enough tools. I'm more into like making tools, as you've seen on my stuff. I'm almost like more into making tools than I am into like making blacksmithing stuff. But
that's
I'm
cool.
confident. yeah, it's whatever. But I'm confident now that like I could, I could, in theory, make anything. Like it might not be beautiful. It might not be like the finest. It might not, but like I could make anything. Like anything that like needed to get the job done, I could do it. And there's a big difference between that because I started timing myself. This is an interesting thing. With all of these various side hustles, I started timing like how long each particular process took me and dividing that by how much money I could sell each thing for to find like an efficiency ratio. Because like woodworking, for example, I'll make just like ultra premium, like hand cut joinery, not a single drop of glue, not a single nail or fastener or screw, like all 100% held together through like mechanical
Yeah, the grain
locking.
shrinking and holding together.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. You know, like I can do that stuff. And like the furniture that I have in my house is to that level, you know, and like it, it's just something, it's cool to like own something that like nobody else can even say that they've seen before. You know what I mean? Like it's very possible that if you went up to someone on the street and was like, hey, have you ever seen like a 7-drawer dresser that is like there's no glue in it, no screws, it's 100% held together, and it functions just like absolutely beautifully with no metal parts. It's all like all the drawers just like fit in there so perfectly that like when you pull them out, you can, it's almost like full extension because it's just like so perfect in there that, you know, and like all hand done, like on with the planes and just like your saws, you know, like lining it up perfectly, and the chisels just like, you know, just like craftsmanship, you know what I mean? Like most people have probably never even seen that, but it's like, oh yeah, you know, we were talking today about changing up our kitchen and putting um like a island in. And my wife was like, oh, but like then our table would be too big if we were to move it over here. And I was just like, oh, whatever, I'll make a new table. You know, it's just like whatever. Like you just make one, and it's not even like a problem because not only do you have like the perfect size table for the space, but it's also like you made that table,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
it's
just got so
better.
much swag, you know?
It's not that hard to compete with most things, you know? Not that not in any way to downgrade anything you make. I'm just saying like you most people have these things that are just two screws holding it together, right? And it'll just break in a year and they got to buy another one. But a handmade something that you've gotten yourself, you know, is always going to be better than what you could go buy, right?
Well, yeah. And I mean, better obviously depends on who you're talking to. Like for some people, they don't give a fuck about. Sorry, am I allowed to like swear on your show?
100%. Fuck yes. If
All
I
right.
haven't been swearing, it's because I'm stoned.
Yeah, understandable. So, but like most people just simply do not care about that level of swag. You know what I mean? And if they can get like the direction we're headed really is like there's going to be like, oh, which table do you have in your house? Like table A, table B, or table C? You know, and like you buy it from Amazon and like the drone drops it off at your house, and like some guy just like shows up in a driverless vehicle and assembles it for you, and he goes off to the next thing, and it's in your house or whatever. And it's like that's the table you have. But the future that I dream about is like, you know, like all of my friends, you know what I mean? Like everyone in my community, like when they gather with their families, like they're eating dinner off my table. You know what I mean? Like the table that I made for them, like specifically. Like what kind of table do you want? Like what do you want in your house? Like what's beautiful? What would like make your like dining room just like sing with like community, like when you have people over, it's this like beautiful thing. And I really think that with like how things are going, that these skills are going to become more valuable, because everybody wants to be different. You know what I mean? Some people want to be like too different and they just become like weird or whatever. But like at their core, at everyone's core, everyone wants to be like distinct to a certain extent. You know, community is obviously important, but they want to like stand out in that community or whatever. And this is just like that permaculture principle, you know, value diversity. It's like there's room for everyone. You know what I mean? Some people would have like zero interest in making furniture, and like, okay, fine, like what do you have interest in? Like do that, and like I'll trade you a table for that. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, I don't know, it's interesting times, because with all of these like small and
Oh, dang it. It cut out.
at a main gig, that something that they could scale up to the entire economy. Actually, that's a really good articulation of it. Right now, all of my skills, I have skills in like almost everything that you would need to supply yourself with almost everything. I like my personality trait. If you look at the big five, like personality, like
Yeah,
tests
the
and stuff,
test.
I'm like I'm like 100th percentile in openness and like 0th percentile in agreeableness. So I like I'm I like want to do everything, and I don't think that like I just like want to do it my own way. You know what I mean? Like I don't like agree with anyone. Um eh, but it's different, because like, you know, like I agree with you and stuff, but I just like really value individuality. I guess that's more the like expression, is that I value individuality and uniqueness, and I'm also like super open to experience. So I just think that like if every person in a like community had that one thing that they could do for everyone, because like I can produce everything for myself, but I couldn't produce any one of those things. Like I'm not good enough to build furniture for everybody. You know what I mean? I'm good enough to build furniture for myself and like a piece here and there for people. Like I'm good enough to blacksmith all of the stuff that like I need. You know, like I can't think of anything. I haven't been blacksmithing that much recently. You know, I'll go on and off on how much I like tweet about it or whatever, but I haven't been tweeting much about it because like I just can't think of anything that I really need. You know, I kind of make stuff that I
Yeah, that you
need.
use. Blacksmithing
Yeah,
is
that I
mostly, I think,
use.
about making tools for yourself. And you do a lot of making these
Yeah.
cool like guillotine dies. I don't I don't remember when I mean, I saw a video about it, but that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's also kind of like a permaculture. There's some permaculture influence there, because like with the guillotine tool, for example, that's my favorite thing that I've made, is that it's just like so multifunctional. Like you have one tool that can seriously do anything.
Yeah,
Like
you just
any,
change the bits and then it'll do a
yeah,
different thing.
just change the dies. It's like, it's just like, I find myself wishing often when I have like a hammer in my hand, you know what I'm talking about, where you're like, I need to hit this. Like if I could hold this just like perfectly and like hit it at the perfect angle, at the perfect, like, you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah.
location and everything. And it just makes it so much easier. So that's kind of like an example of, like I've dialed in the guillotine tool making tech, for example. Like some things take like a super long time to make, but you can't make that much money off of them. And
Yeah, they're
some
so
things
niche
you
that only like
can
four
create
people would
super
like
quick.
it. but it's still the coolest thing ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And well, and that's the trade-off, because like if you can find those 4 people, then like awesome. You know what I mean? Like if you could find someone who wants like a chandelier or something, and they want like the real deal, like a blacksmith chandelier, like a huge thing, you know, that they hang from the great room in their like lodge on the lake or whatever, they're like $2 million thing,
Yeah, the
and they're
metal
willing to
work.
drop like $5,000. You know, like $5,000 doesn't mean anything to them, but like they just want like this super swaggy chandelier or something. It's like, you know, there's those people, and then there's kind of the average like everyday person who they don't care, you know, if it's like a handmade forged chandelier or a like screw-in light bulb from IKEA. You know what I mean? So there's the whole range of market in between there, and it's like inverse, um, the graph of like price and it's supply and demand. You know what I mean? Like there's more people who want the $1 light bulb. That's most people. Most people are just going to go for the cheapest thing, but it's finding those people who, those 4 people who are willing to spend. Like it's so ridiculous. Like, yo, I make like belts and dog collars and stuff like that. You know, I hand forge the buckles. I'm actually wearing one right now. Here, I'll take it off and show it. Here's a plug. Hit me up on Twitter and DM me if you want one of these.
Nice.
But it's just like, you know, like this is all me. Like I forged the buckle. I use this every day, like hand sewn leather. I also made like this Leatherman pouch. You know, like I can make like seriously anything, like anything. I guess maybe that's like my role in the community, is just the dude that you go to where you're like, I need this. And I'm like, I can make that. But check out how sweet this is. This has everything you need in it. I don't know
Yeah, I can see
on
it.
the
A
light,
lighter, a Leatherman.
but this is, you've got like a lighter, a Leatherman, a flashlight, and the flashlight, like when you're wearing it on your belt, you can,
You can
um,
use without taking it out. Yeah.
you can use it without taking it out. You can see the bulb there. I like cut it out. So if it's on your belt, you can tilt it forward like this because the belt loop is really big. So normally you can see where it normally rides on the thing. But
Yeah.
if you tilt it, the width of the thing allows it so that when you're walking, it just shines it like perfectly where you're walking if you're walking in the dark. But then also you can take it out without opening it, you know,
Yeah.
because
Side pocket.
and this is where the permaculture thing comes in. It's just like it's so like the patterns just mesh so perfectly, and this is the only kind of thing that you can do. And then in here next to the Leatherman, I've got like a needle. This is actually a pin, but it's like stuck into the leather there. You can see that. For getting like splinters out, because I get a ton of splinters, because like why carry gloves. And then there in here there's like a flosser and some rope and a $100 bill. So
Nice.
that, dude,
You're
that has saved
prepared for
my
any
ass so
eventuality.
like dude, this is the EDC. Like you will not and it's fucking cool. Like seriously, look at that. Like nobody you know has anything like this. You know what I mean? It's just like that is sweet, and it's just like that covers so many bases, especially the $100. Here's another thing you can do. Um, if you have like a on your cell phone, take the case off and uh, fold up a $100 bill into thirds and put it in between your phone and your case and just forget about it. Because like there will come a time when like you forget your wallet, you're screwed or whatever. That has saved my ass so many times where it's just like, oh yeah, you know, you just like pull your phone case off, take that $100 off, here you go. And it's like so much more valuable than money in the bank. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you have $0 in your checking account, just like save up to get 100 just for that, because then you're at the same place where you are when you started. You have $0 in your account, but you've got that $100 just like for when you like really need it, you know. And you can draw the line wherever you want on like when you really need it, but just stuff like that. I don't know.
That's awesome. One time I made a knife sheath. I cut it out of leather and sewed it together, and then put the knife in it. I put it into hot wax, and then I pulled it out and put the knife in it when it was, still pliable, and then made it the right shape, and then took it out. So that sounds awesome, man. I don't know what my main would be. Not woodwork for sure. I just grow a lot of plants. But the people that I've been helping, they've had terrible problems. One guy overwatered shit out of them. They all fucking went super stressed out and freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
One flower at like 2 inches tall. It was crazy. And the other one has just a fuckload of bugs because she brought a lot of plants in from outside.
Mm.
And so all the bugs hatched.
But you know what? Like, seriously, if we look
So,
at things that people like really want, you know what I mean? Like, that's super high up on the list. And like, that's some serious value. Like, I wouldn't downplay that. And if you can like market yourself as just the absolute expert, like I know,
well, I shouldn't
like
mark
I
myself as
am.
that because I'm not the absolute expert. I'm just somebody that, you know, I was in a wheelchair for like a year, so I spent like a lot of time just looking up things that I figured would help after because I knew it would be hard to get work, right?
Yeah,
So permaculture was
dude, but
pretty quick
but
and it was awesome when I found permaculture. It's the best one, you know, making things into a circle,
yeah,
self benefit.
yeah, exactly. But the thing I'm learning as I like branch out and have all these is like, nobody cares if you're actually an expert. Like, the placebo effect kicks in, and like I'll just go out, like I'll start a side hustle. Sometimes I'll just go on the Craigslist help wanted or like gigs, or you know what I mean? And people will be like I did this with dog training, for example. This is one of the recent ones. Um, this lady was like in search of dog trainer. And I'm like, dude, my dog is so well trained, it's not even funny. Like, there is not a single thing, like literally, I cannot think of a single thing that my dog does that causes me any negative emotion at all. Not even the tiniest bit. Like, it's almost like he can like read my mind. He does everything that I want. And like all of my friends, there's like just that one thing or several things, you know, they're always like apologizing for their dog, or like having to like put him away, or having to do this or having, and I was like, that's just not true of me. Like I train my dog so that my dog is like basically perfect. So therefore, that gives me the right to teach it to other people. Like I will teach you my method for $50 an hour. I just had someone email me this morning saying, I was emailing her back and forth, and she's like, my dog barks too much, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, $50 for a 1 hour session. That's what you get. And she's like, oh, you know, like, oh, that's a lot of money or whatever. Like, I'll come back to you. And like a week later, she's like, yo, like, when can you come? You know, it's just like, I don't need to be like an expert. All I need to do is like be better than you for one, and market and like spin that narrative. And it's not like spinning, it's not, there's no malicious intent or like sneaky motives or anything, but it's just like you need to convey it in such a way that the story is compelling. You know, like for me, when she posted this in search of dog trainer thing, I was like, I emailed her back and I was just like, look, if there's anything, like just what I just said, I was like, if there's anything you do that your dog does that you don't like, I can help you. I guarantee it. Like, I have the secrets. And people will just respond to that, you know, and they'll just be like throwing money at you in cash for like literally anything. That's one thing that I think people do is they like downplay their skills. It's like, if you have skills in anything, you have to assume that like the average IQ is 100. You know what I mean? So that means like 50% of people are stupider than that and 50% are smarter. So like, that's a lot of people who are really stupid. You know, if you think of someone with an IQ of 100, it's just like, it's that Mark Twain quote. And like, these people have money and they're willing to spend it. So go get it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. I did a whole bunch of different, like, framing, painting, different trades, just being an apprentice.
But
Never.
like I saw, like, you were tweeting about this. You threw up that shed, and like that was pretty well done. You know what I mean? Like,
I
you
mean,
weren't
I've
fucking.
yeah.
You did that properly, and you threw that up in like a day or whatever. It's like, come on, man. Like,
I had help.
people. Yeah, whatever. Though you had help, but like, for my handyman side hustle, like everything I do, I'm like $50 an hour. That like $50 cash an hour. I don't care. Like, if you don't want to hire me, fine. Someone else will. I'll find something to do. That's kind of my personal cutoff, where like, if I can't get $50 an hour at it, I'm not going to do it, because some people are willing to accept like $25 an hour. And that's fine. If like, if that's your cutoff, then that just means that like, you have to work twice as much as me for that same amount of money. Some people are willing to accept $10 an hour. Well, that means you have to work 5 times more than me to make the same amount of money. You know what I mean? Like, for every hour you're at work, just like sitting there flipping burgers or doing whatever, like, for every 5 hours you're there, I'm working like 1 hour. And you can seriously, like, honestly, like, the higher you set your price, the better, in a certain sense, because like, people just like assume that it's a better product or a better service. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah, like the
I
iPhone.
think 50 bucks. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that like $50 an hour, that's a lot. That's like unreasonable by my own standards. Cause I think of some of these things that I sell, and it's like, they're giving you a check for like $2,000, and it just like blows your mind that like, that's worth that to some people, but like, it is. And it doesn't matter what it matters who and that sword cuts both ways, where like, if you're deficient in something but someone who's good at it, then they can like help you out. But if you're good at something and someone else is deficient at it, then you can help them out. And that's really kind of the direction that we need to be going in terms of like this future that we're headed towards, is that like, we need to help each other, because informal economies and like bartering, that's going to be super key.
100%. It. I mean, I don't know what will happen. I don't have any sort of economics background, to say whether or not this stock crash is like a huge thing, or if it's just. But
Well, I think I know exactly what's going to happen.
yeah, I mean, enough people have been talking about it for long enough that at this point, it's kind of one of those days where it's like, feels good not to say I told you so.
Yeah. I dig that, but it's just like this, like, what's happening right now is just like such a validation of like everything that I've, you know, like what I've
100%.
been preparing for, how I've set up my life. You know, I've got people like calling me up being like, dude, can you come over to my house and like tell me like what I can do to like be like you? Like that's basically what they're saying. You know, they don't phrase it like that, but that's basically what they're saying. And it's just like, yeah, like I will come over and like I will tell you what you need to do to get your life like as secure as possible. And I don't know, I think it's just like it's an interesting time because at the end of all this, I don't think anyone is gonna like, it's not gonna be, I thought of like a way of articulating this the other day that I think is particularly poignant. It's not going to be an apocalyptic world. It's going to be a dystopian world, just to make that distinction, where it's not going to be like you're out there and you need to survive. Like, can you survive? You know, like it's not going to be like that. There, like society's going to go on. Nothing, like no infrastructure was destroyed. No, like nothing that is like tangible and real was destroyed. The only thing that was destroyed was like the economy and consciousness and like all of these other things that are kind of like metaphysical in a certain sense, or like non-tangible. Like the economy is a real thing, but you can't like touch it. You know what I mean? It's kind of this like untangible entity that exists. And that's the stuff that they're wrecking. So, or they're wrecking or is being wrecked, or however you want to understand it.
I don't
Um,
even know how to understand it. I just know that it's so wacky that it makes no sense, you know?
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, it makes perfect sense to me, and at least in my own reality, like, I'm very open to the notion that I may be wrong. Like, I could be totally wrong.
I
And
didn't
in
mean what you were
fact, I,
saying. I meant like the, just the way that everything is run into the ground by bureaucracy and stuff. Like you're doing everything independently, right? That's the exact opposite. That's what everybody should be doing. Self-sufficiency.
well, I'm not going to say that it's like what everyone should be doing. Um, because like I'm not in a position to tell anyone else what to do. Like other people are free to do whatever they want and I don't really care. But they're like,
But
you should do something and it's a smart idea are totally
agriculture,
different concepts.
it doesn't have to be agriculture, you know? You could just make part of your life, no matter what you do, self-sufficient, right?
Exactly. And that was like my original point when you asked me like what I was up to, how I was like, I'm trying to dial in that master of one. Like you just need, just like an ecosystem, you know, this is the pattern. Like this is the pattern. Like for a forest to succeed, you need like the overstory trees, the canopy, you know what I mean? Like the rhizome
Yeah,
layer, the vine layer, the herbaceous layer.
the
You
whole
need all of
ecosystem.
the, yeah, and you need like each individual thing. And together, just like a market, how a market is individuals, you know, coming together all for their own self-interest ultimately, but benefiting each other because that self-interest, saying like, I want to make the best world for my family, and my like myself and my community. I care about myself. I want to be secure. I don't want to worry. I want to be set. Therefore, I'm going to create something of so much value that it helps everyone else, and I can sell it and, you know, get money or whatever the currency is. You know, that's really what it's all about. And it seems like in this the whole like fallout of this coronavirus thing is going to be that people like homogenize. And you know, it's funny to me that um all these small and medium sized businesses are going out of business. But like Amazon is hiring 150,000 people, Walmart is hiring 100,000 people, they're crushing it. And it's like, you've got the number one online retailer and the number one physical retailer in America, just like crushing this crisis, hiring all these people, their stocks going up,
Costco.
whatever. Yeah, Costco, exactly. And it's
And
going to
like you
be
were
like,
saying before about the markets, they shut down all the little local farmers market. So everybody who's got their 100% of their income coming from produce or whatever they grew, they're just shut
yeah.
down. Meanwhile, Walmart gets bigger. It's just
And then it's like, oh, well, I'm sure Walmart isn't like, in cahoots with the state or anything. Like, I'm sure they're not tracking everything you buy and like selling that information to people who want to like advertise to you. And I don't even think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if you're a business and you're like, look, we can get you the product for cheaper, we can have the better logistics, we can do this and that, but we're going to sell every little bit of data that we can possibly get off you. We're going to sell it to advertisers. We're going to give it to whoever, like the highest bidder. And that's just how it's going to be. So if you want to shop here, just recognize that our prices are better. And, like our shelves are always full. It's like, okay, sweet. Thank you for letting me know. If I decide that I want that, then I'll go there. But then there's like another business that's like, we will never share. Like, you can buy, like black markets would be the opposite of this, where it's like, the guy opens his coat. He's like, what do you want? You meet him. You're like, I want that. You don't know his name. He doesn't know you. You give him the cash. He gives you the stolen watch or whatever, and you go your ways. It's like, there's that, and there's a range of everything in between. But it seems like what we're headed towards is like a way of eliminating those black markets without enforcement. With the stimulus package that they're proposing in the US, I just read some tweet about this. They are snuck in there is like a digitization of the US dollar. So I don't know if it's going to be a cryptocurrency or something. They were comparing it to that in the article, but it might very well not be like a cryptocurrency proper or whatever. It's probably just some like computer ledger in the Federal Reserve's computers or whatever. But people are talking about how cash transmits coronavirus and stuff like that, and how that's going to be the justification. Like, it really wouldn't surprise me at this point if that's what happened. Like, either way, I'm prepared, because I'm trying to like ramp up the production of everything on our homestead so that,
were those
even
all
if,
your blueberry bushes?
no, this is another permaculture little aspect, design your life accordingly. So we live a little higher elevation. We're up in like the foothills of the mountains, and the farm that I was working at, they're our friends, and they're down in the valley, and they've got 5,000 blueberry bushes, and they've like amended their soil in the entire like field to be perfect for blueberries. Like, they've got the right sun requirements and the right water, and they're just dialed in for it.
That's awesome.
So,
Blueberries are the best.
yeah, blueberries are awesome. But the thing is, like, okay, so I could either, my choices, and this is from a purely economic standpoint, and I'm not saying that like this is the right decision. I'm just saying, like, from a permaculture perspective, I think that this is something valuable to consider. Like, I could grow blueberry bushes at my place, and it would be like marginal. They say 2,700 elevation is the like cutoff. We're at 2,800 feet, so that's like a little outside the range. So they would still probably grow, but they wouldn't be like peak productivity. You know what I mean? Like they would grow, but it would be just barely. So these guys have like the perfect location. So their bushes would make like 2 to 3 times more than mine. So time is the only resource that you have that is like, there's a hard limit on it. It's like, you are born and you're going to die. Like, you have this much time to work with. Use it wisely. You know what I mean? And if I can just like go to someone else's place and work for them and be like, hey, like I'll prune all your blueberry bushes for you. Like, I'm not going to prune all of them by
Yeah,
you know, like 5,000 is a lot. There's like,
a lot.
yeah, there's like 5 or 6 people working every day. But the deal we have is like, I'll work for you. And like for every hour of work, you give me a gallon of blueberries. And it's just like, yeah, you know, like the amount of time that I would have to spend like caring for these blueberries and doing all this stuff, it's like just trade for it. Like, form a relationship so that like maybe there will come a time when you need like 50 gallons of blueberries. You know, like maybe you want to just like fill up your pantry with like years worth of jam and stuff like that. You can call in that favor, you know what I mean? And you don't have to, like, we're off grid. So these guys have like, they're on grid and they have a commercial freezer. And it's like, you know, 12 by 12 by like 8 or whatever. It's huge. It's
You'd
like a
have
walk-in
to if you
freezer.
have that big of a crop, though, right?
Well,
Otherwise,
exactly. And that's the thing. Like, they have this because they need to sell blueberries all winter at the grocery stores to get by. So it's like, yo, I have like, whoa,
we catch.
I have like a really small freezer.
Yep,
And
no, it's working. It's working good.
so it's like, yo, like I'll work for you, and like every like week or whatever, just like take one out of your freezer and give it to me. So like they're storing it for me, they're doing everything. All I need to do is like put in this work once a year. It's like the permaculture principle, capture and store energy. You know what I mean? Like the phrase, when the sun shines, make hay.
Yeah.
But this is like the level beyond it. It's like, when the sun shines, help someone else make hay. And then when the sun isn't shining, get your hay from them. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, it's just like another link in that kind of like mycelium like pattern that creates an economy. And when you have like, the more and more exchanging that you have within an economy, the better it's going to be. So one of the mottos that I live by is, life is not about how much money you can make, it's about how little money you can need. And I think that's like a really profound statement.
That's completely true, though. The less money you need to live, the more wealth you can have, right?
Exactly, because like you don't know what's going to happen. So like, you can buy, it just shocks me that you can buy an apple tree for like $20, you know, or even free. Like, you can get apple trees for free. Like around here, people have like abandoned apple trees that it's just like sitting on the side of the road. There's like hundreds or thousands of pounds of apples on it, and they just let them fall on the ground. They don't even notice it. You know, it's just some weed or whatever. It's like, well, go and get all those apples. And even if the only thing you do is just like bury them all around your property, you know what I mean? Don't even eat them, just like bury them or feed them to your chickens or something. And maybe you'll get like apple trees poking up all over the place. And I think Ben Falk, in his book, The Resilient Farm and Homestead, he like calculated the ROI on an apple tree, and it was like 5,000% or something like that. It's
It's
like the best. It's
unreal.
like the Yeah, it's like the best investment you can possibly make. You buy like a $1 apple from the store, like plant it. You know, you might get like 4 or 5, 6 trees or whatever if all of them germinate and you do everything right. And like each of those trees will produce this many apples per year. And like the time, you know, he factored in all the time, and just the ROI is like so insane that like that's from like an entrepreneurial standpoint, you know, a lot of businesses are operating on super tight margins and stuff, where they might make like, you know, they buy an item and they sell it and they make like 1% or something off that. It's like, just plant a tree, you know, 5,000% right there from all the money you save from just not having to buy that item, and all of the taxes and um, just like middlemen that take their cut out of it.
That's one of the main worst things about being way up north is that you can only grow so many trees that'll actually put out like a fruit. Like there's a couple kinds of crab apple that'll grow everywhere. You know, the little tiny
Mm-hmm.
hard sour one. And those are good and everything. Like when they fall in the winter, the deer eat them and all that. Um, but it would be sweet to be able to grow all the things that I'm sure you could grow down there.
Yeah, and that's like one of the main reasons why we moved from Alaska to down here. Is like when it gets to like 60 below, you know, there's like a couple variety, like maybe 1 or 2 varieties of ultra hardy apples and that's like basically the only thing you can grow. And also just like the 23 hours of darkness and the
But
-60 temperatures. But the culture in Alaska was sweet. Apparently it sucks now though. One of my friends back there, I just talked to him the other day, it's just getting worse and worse. Like the economy, now that the oil, you know, is getting so cheap, that was a
yeah,
huge part of the economy. And the tourism, you know, that's going to be basically nothing. The economy is just screwed there. So it's a shame because it is a wonderful place. You know, it's probably pretty similar in like what the country looks like to where you live, you know.
oh, it's way prettier. I've been to the Yukon, which is pretty, and I mean, I did go to Skagway in Alaska.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
it's like just super close to the Yukon, so um, I mean, it's way more mountainy and like pretty there, man. It's like flat here.
Oh, really? Oh, really? It's flat where you're at.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm in the prairies here, so
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking of like, you know, you drive through like Banff and Jasper and stuff like that, and that just completely wastes Alaska. Like, I'm sorry, but just in terms of like raw beauty and power, I really can't think of anywhere in the entire world that could top Jasper or Banff, you know?
my favorite drive that I've ever done in my life was when I drove up to Whitehorse. That shit is like,
Yeah,
it's
that's way out there,
unbelievable.
man.
It is
That is
unbelievable.
way out there.
I didn't expect it to be that far to the west.
Yeah, yeah. Whitehorse is pretty dang out there. I lived in Fairbanks, so you know that's a pretty major city in Alaska, and there's only like, you know, 9 highways or something. But it was cool. But I'm glad I live here, and that's the main reason. It's just like, yeah, the coldest it ever gets, like -12. That's like, you know, 16, 17 Fahrenheit. It's not that cold.
No,
You know, like the stream that runs on our property, I don't even think I had to chip ice off of it this year. You know what I mean? Like when I'm
this
pumping
year has
water.
been so crazy for winter. We had one really good cold snap up here, but other than that, it's been complete and utter horseshit. It's just we didn't really get a good winter this year.
Yeah, we didn't either. It was crazy. Like we got maybe some of our friends are like obsessed with skiing. Skiing is great, and I love skiing, but like some people just get way too into it around here because we've got like a good ski slope and stuff, and people just go skiing like every day, both downhill and cross country. And these people are more into cross country. And there was like, because they would tell me about it all the time, there was maybe like 1 or 2 weeks of like actually good skiing, and the rest of it was either like raining in between too much, or like raining and then freezing at night,
Yeah,
and it was just total crap like all year.
that's literally the story of my
But
winter
apparently
right
up
there.
Yeah, it's interesting, but apparently like way up high, they did get decent snow like way up in the mountains. So that's mainly all I care about. Like as long as the all the rivers keep running and that water's melting all summer, that's the important part. So once the like upper elevation snowpack drops, then I'll be sad. But until then, it's like I'll take the heat, whatever. And like I'll take some rain in the winter. I don't really care.
We should talk about making passive solar self-sufficient greenhouse, eh?
We should.
We should,
Um,
because you sound like with 5,000 acres, there's almost certainly going to be some sort of south-facing sloped ground you've got that you
oh,
can dig.
sorry, I don't have 5,000. I have five.
Oh, I fucked that number up because, dumb
Whatever.
baked head.
Um, I do have some south exposure, and I've already done the earthworks to. I have like a really nice, just like south facing slope. I hired this guy. This was the best money that I ever spent. I think it was $4,000. And this dude came in with like this huge ass excavator and a bulldozer. He had an
Yeah,
excavator and a bulldozer,
the
and
whole
this
crew.
dude knew how to use them. Yeah, he knew how to use them. Like he was not screwing around, and he just like went in. I was like, I want a big ass terrace here. And he was just like, boom, 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 and it's like, boom, like in one day, you just have this like 20-foot like terrace on this hill that was just like steep, and he like blasted in our driveway. He blasted in this road down to the stream. He like cleared a ton of land. It was like insane how much value I got out of this dude. And like it was totally mutually, like I think he was making like $100 an hour, and like I would have paid so much more like for what I got, $100 an hour. And that's what I'm talking about, like the jack of all trades, master of one. Like this dude was a master with an excavator. Like I feel like I got such a good deal on that, paying $100 an hour.
Operating heavy
I just
machinery was like the best way to come out of a wheelchair after my injury because that's what they retrained
Oh
me to
dude, yeah,
do, right? So I was
straight up.
fucked up. I couldn't do anything, and then all of a sudden, I'm in a bulldozer that's got the tracks, and I could just do whatever the fuck I want. Finally, and I can push shit. I
Yeah,
can just push whatever I want. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
best goddamn thing. That was so fun.
Yeah, I love it. I've got a tractor, and just when you're like clearing land and the trees aren't too big, and you can just like go up and just like push a tree over and like
Yeah,
pick it up, roots and all. It's just such a great feeling. And like the bigger the machine you have, like this dude with the huge excavator, he could like a tree that was like 14, 16 inches thick. He could just go up and like knock it over like it was absolutely nothing. And it's just such a good feeling to like, especially when you're moving dirt, you know what I mean, like a bulldozer or something. Just like imagine shoveling all of that. It's so ridiculous, but like you get in your bulldozer and you just like burn like a cup of diesel fuel and move this like mountain of soil from like here to there. It's like seriously gratifying.
it is seriously gratifying. You leave the entire world different when you move those machines. It's crazy.
And the thing is, like, if you think of money for what you get, like earthworks and machinery and stuff like that, is just such a return on investment. Because, like, if you look at Machu Picchu and like the some of the terracing in China and stuff, this is like thousands of years old. You know what I mean? And they did it all by hand, but it's like still there and
Yeah.
it's still producing. Like in China, they'll grow rice on the same terrace every single year for the past like 5,000 years. And it's every year because of like how the water moves through it and the like deposition of minerals and organic matter from the one above it. It just like takes care of itself.
Yeah.
And like where we're headed, I think it's like we're splitting and diverging further and further, where on one hand you have that you've got like the little guy, the guy like me who's got like a garden, got a little orchard, whatever, can maybe grow enough food for himself, maybe a little bit to trade here and there. And then there's like no in between. And then there's like the super giga farms that produce just like 50,000 bushels of apples or whatever, and they ship them everywhere. And that's just like, that just seems to be where we're headed. Like it's just diverging to the extremes more and more and more. People are getting more polarized, and
100%.
everything, and like production and all that stuff. It's just like you're going to have like the ultra wealthy and like the people on welfare. You're going to have like the super giga farms and like the tiny little farms. You're going to have like these mass movements, like the Democrat and the Republican Party. And then you're going to have these like tiny little like anarchist blacksmithing Twitter group. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just
the
like,
little groups.
it's diverging where everything is going to be like the little groups, but where like the little groups where they're like so tiny, there's like 5 people in the entire world. You know what I mean? There's like Twitter or whatever, how we met, is like the entire world. And there's like 3 solid members in anarchist blacksmithing Twitter. You know what I mean?
Uh-oh, we're cutting
Like
out.
3 people, and we all know each other.
There we go. You're
Is
back.
it in again?
You're back. It cut out on anarchy blacksmithing. Of all things, like what's with the timing? I swear, sometimes.
Well, I was just saying, like, you know,
I
Twitter's
I
like a
totally get
worldwide
your point though.
phenomenon.
Like there's 3 people in anarchy blacksmithing Twitter, and it's awesome, right? But everything bigger than that, we're on polarities. Fuck, it's a good point. I was trying to think of a way to bring up the topic of like terraforming in a pond again, but I guess you already said that you're not allowed to put a pond in. But it'd be so
Oh
cool.
no, that was in Minnesota. I could put a pond in here, and I'm gonna.
Oh,
I was just, that example is why like we didn't want to move
yeah.
there, and why we moved here instead, just because it's a little more free.
Up here, there's people that have a pond that fills up every winter because the snow
Sort of
melts and fills the
freedom
pond.
that we can, because the more.
Oh, sorry. Ah, crap! It cut out, and then you were talking. I interrupted you. Where did I lose you?
Oh no, we were just. I think it actually cut out while you were talking. I said that I could put a pond in here or whatever, and then you started talking about ponds in
Yeah.
your
Uh,
location.
somebody was uh, somebody up here was using a pond that fills up after every winter snow, so they just shape it so all the snow melts into the pond, and then the pond's full. Then they pump that out and feed all their cows water all summer, and then it's empty, right? But then the next winter comes and it's full again. So, I mean, it would mean that you would need some way to water the things that you were watering in the summer in the winter. That's not it, but I don't know. That sounds pretty cool.
Well, and that's the idea of capture and store energy. Like livestock take a ton of water, you know what I mean? And if you can have a pond that fills up with snow melt, then do it. You know what I mean? Like it's such an obvious choice. It's like, how can you lose? Like there's just so there's 0 points of failure. Well, the only point of failure would be if it doesn't snow. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And at that point, if it doesn't, like if it literally does not snow, you've got so many bigger problems to worry about that that's another thing that people often sensationalize is like sacrificing the good for perfection, or like, what's the phrase, that perfection is the enemy of the good, where
Yeah.
you have these like purists who are like, oh, well, like, you shouldn't use like electricity at all because like electricity is blah, 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 or like you should never use any like gas or diesel. It's like,
Yeah.
whatever, dude, you know, like we've got gas and diesel, like I'm gonna use it, screw you. And like, I don't care, like if you want to live like that, like be my guest, enjoy, but like I seriously don't care. And I'm gonna use like everything available to me, every resource that's available to me to like achieve the goals that I want. And that's how it should be, because if people are free to make that decision, then that just like spurs innovation. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of crap that I've thought of that is just like super trick, you know, like really slick. And but I'm just like, who would, like, nobody would ever, it's just like too out there, you know what I mean? Like if I went up to someone at the like farmers market or the county fair or whatever and was like, I'll build you a passive solar greenhouse, like
Yeah.
look at these pictures of like me growing tomatoes in mid-December, like red ripe on the vine in mid-December in this climate, like 0 energy input, 100% passive. Like 99% of people would just be like, what the hell is this dude talking about? Like,
Yep.
no, you know what I mean?
They wouldn't
Um,
get through the first 10%, right? They'd already.
exactly. They'd be like, no, I'm just going to like buy tomatoes from the grocery store that come from like Venezuela or whatever. Probably not Venezuela, but maybe like Argentina or
But then
somewhere with an
again,
economy.
it's like printing your own money to grow your own food, right? So if you're doing it for yourself, then you don't have to spend money in that area, and then you're just.
In my, I mean, yeah, in my opinion, it's better than printing your own money, because money is like a shared illusion
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
certain things like might go up in value or go down in value. But to me, a tomato has like absolute value. You know, like there's a certain
Uh-huh.
amount of calories in that, there's a certain amount of nutrition, it's non-negotiable. Like you need to eat like however many tomatoes a day and however many like grams of lettuce and all the other you know, like meat and all that stuff. Like it's non-negotiable. But money, you know, there's like haggling and there's like exchange rates and all this stuff. So it's not like printing your own money. It's like creating your own gold,
Like
or
value, just straight up value.
it, it's the essence of pure value. You know what I mean? Like nobody can tell me, you know, you go out and shoot a deer or whatever and get all the meat off of that. It's like people are paying $5 a pound for ground beef, like shitty industrial factory farm ground beef at the farm, at the grocery store. And it's like, dude, literally for like 50 cents for like a bullet, you can go and shoot a deer and get like.
Oh no, you cut out. Oh, got it. You're going.
All right. So like the return on investment, you know, 50 cents for a bullet, a couple hours of time, whatever. Like I know places around here, like my buddy's got he works for a dude who has a Christmas tree farm, and there's a lot of like other stuff going on in there, like there's alfalfa fields and grain and stuff like that. So there's just deer out the wazoo, and these deer come in and, you know, fuck up all of the trees and eat all the grain and shit. So
I
they
worked
get,
for a hunting lodge where the guy had just a giant ass field of field peas, which the deer fucking loved and would come in for. And you know, he was a hunting guide, so he would just obviously figure out where they were going and take his people.
yeah, exactly. So some people, dude, one of my homies in Alaska, this motherfucker, he charges people like 30,000 motherfucking bucks
This guy was one
to
of those
go.
guys. They fly in, come to the little
Yep,
area, go to yeah, exactly.
exactly. Yep. These like fat European bitches, you know, they, these like businessmen, where it's this like bullshit status symbol because there's some like folk tale in Germany. Apparently, like moose have
Yeah,
this like huge
trophy.
significance in Germany. So these dudes will like fly to Alaska and get these fucking huge moose, dude. Like some of these racks. I worked for this dude, and my wife did too. She was a cook, and then I just helped him. You know, I was just kind of like a labor or whatever. I was basically just there because he was my friend. You know, he paid me, and I did work for him.
Yeah.
But some of these moose racks were like taller than me. You know what I mean? I'm like 180 centimeters tall, and these moose racks were like 190. You know what I mean? It's absolutely absurd. So these dudes would pay 30,000 bucks to show up, get on a bush plane, land, get off. He'd like take them. We'd blast a moose, take them back 30 G units, and you know, the ROI on that is like 1% or like, you know, 0.1%. But you know, if you my buddy who works for the Christmas tree farm, they just like hand out depredation tags. You know what I mean? They're like shoot as many deer as you want, just like mow them down. They're nuisances, they're destroying the crops, just like mow them all down. And it's like, so you go up, you literally like drive up, you get out of your car, you like shoot one, you might like shoot through it and kill like another one or another two. It doesn't even matter because there's like so many of them. You cut them up, you know, you're doing it like one after another. So if you do something like every once in a while, you're like kind of rusty at it or whatever, but like you do the first one, then you're like, okay, yeah, like
Yeah, like riding a bike.
now,
You never
yeah,
forget.
it's like riding a bike. And then you do the second one and you do it like super fast, and you do the third one and you just like knock it out because
The learning curve. That's just how everything goes.
yeah, exactly, it's just the learning curve. So now you've got like hundreds of pounds of meat that's mostly like the best quality meat you can get, and it was 100% free, other than the like three or, you know, like seriously, dude, we've shot through these things and killed 3 of them on 1 bullet. You know what I mean? Like for 50 cents, you get like hundreds of pounds of meat. There's like 0 time investment. You're like helping the property owners. They love it. It's just like, dude, like that is the future. You know what I mean? Like why would anyone be buying like meat from the store when there's opportunities for stuff like that? And we buy meat from the store, you know, like on St. Patty's Day or whatever, you need a corned beef or whatever, and like on Easter, you know, you need a lamb and stuff like that. But we have friends who like do pigs, and we have friends who do goats, and we have friends who do this and friends who do that. And when everybody is doing their own thing, it's
Depending
like,
on where they are, it works better, right?
exactly, because like that's the permaculture thing, is like each individual, you can zoom in to like such a resolution level that each like individual property is going to be better at something just by its natural traits. You know what I mean? Like a certain elevation, a certain exposure, a certain, because like honestly, I wish I had some northern exposure. You know, that'd be cool to have like that super dark, super cold. Like
Yeah.
I would put a roots, like that'd be a perfect spot for a root cellar. And we have southern exposure here, which is great. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Like I love it. And if I only had to have one, that's what I would want. You know what I mean? But like, if there was like one dude in the community who had just like a property with like super extreme northern exposure, and he just built like a fucking huge root cellar, like his entire property was just like a gigantic, like a fucking huge, like an aircraft hangar sized root
Yeah,
cellar.
Ruta.
You know what I mean? And like
I know
he
exactly what you mean. There's a town I lived at in BC where it was on a lake in the valley between two mountains, and so part of the town was on the south side, and part of it was on the north side, and the fucking dark side of the mountain was it was always shady. It was crazy.
yeah, but like, you know what I mean? Like that dude could just like put
Make
in
them
the
use
money,
that, yeah.
and like he could even put in some like energy systems and stuff to like make sure the like ventilation was perfect. You know, he could spend some money on this because like everybody would be paying him. They'd be like, dude, store my like potatoes for me or whatever. Like I'll come pick him up, you know, if he's close. um it's that economy of scale thing where, don't get me wrong, like every single person should have a root cellar. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like nobody has an excuse for not having one. It's just too useful for too many things. I don't have one right now. That's one of my goals for this year, is to dig a root cellar.
That's awesome.
So like every, like I'm talking like, you know, we have like little holes and stuff like that where, you know, I could like hand dig a hole and put a 5 gallon bucket of stuff, but it's like, no, that's a joke. That's bullshit. I'm talking like there's like a door, you open it, you like walk downstairs like into a hillside that's already like this,
Yeah.
and like there's like root cellar like down here, you know what I mean? Like serious, like you're piling all this dirt on top of it. And you know, down by the creek would be the perfect spot to have that, like super high humidity. And it's really shady down there because it's like really steep. Like the property, like our house is kind of right here, and there's a, it's pretty steep, but it's like pretty short, um down to the creek, so it's about 20 feet of elevation between where our house is and the creek, which isn't that much, but it's pretty steep. You know what I mean? Like there might only be like 100 feet or whatever of horizontal distance, but that's a steep enough slope where, you know, you just chew into that hillside and get all your fill dirt to, you know, mix with the compost from your humanure toilet and your compost pile and the all the like animal manure and stuff. And you mix that all up and throw it in the raised beds, and you know, you're cooking. And like everything you do. And the thing is, like, here's the thing that drives me crazy is if we just talk about like composting toilets, people like, rather than, you know, one of the permaculture principles is turn the problem into the solution.
Yeah,
So
make use of all the waste in ways that make it not waste.
yeah, exactly. And people are like paying to get rid of this. I think Shudra even talked about this like exact thing on your show.
You probably did, yeah. I was talking about
So
this.
I'll just echo that. Um, it's like you're paying to get rid of this valuable resource. It's like, why not pay to keep this valuable? It's like the choice is so clear that in a certain sense, like permaculture in my mind almost has to take off because
Yeah.
it it's just like economic incentive. It's like if you can provide the same service for cheaper or faster or better or whatever, then like that's just going to happen. And I just can't see any way in which a traditional system could outperform the permaculture equivalent, other than the fact that um,
It's so
people
much
need,
easier to scale like a very monoculture
yeah,
thing, right?
exactly, yeah.
And
And
it's really fucked because like you go into some people for like to talk about financing it, your business, and they want to know the entire depth of like a very very diverse plan. It's just not, it's not the same for them. They don't know how to work with that. It doesn't fit in their gears, you know.
yeah, and that's why, that's part of like the thing that I was talking about before, how it like everything is diverging, and it's going to the extremes only. So that's just like yet another example. And
I was
you,
I was thinking about your permaculture land, your 5 acres thing, and what do you think about like what your main on that land would be? Do you think you'd have like one tree crop that just drops a bunch of things that you can't harvest, like it's way too much for you, but then all the time
um
something goes around eating it? Like,
yeah, so I really don't think that like my like master of one trait is going to be a like physical product necessarily, because like we are pretty high elevation. Uh, like there's still like a foot of snow on the ground here, you know.
yeah,
Uh, Down in town in the valleys and stuff, it's been snow free for like over a week. You know what I mean? Like I went and I took my tractor and I was like scooping all the snow off this spot so that, you know, the sun could get on there and it could dry out quicker so that I could put up more fencing to put bigger gardens in. And it's just like, I don't think that my particular location is super cool and I really like it, you know, with the year-round stream and just like
definitely.
where we're at.
Um,
Um, it's a super cool spot, but I don't think like our particular pad could be so productive that I would do that. For me, it seems like the direction I'm going is like providing more information services, just like now that stuff is getting kind of more real with coronavirus and all of that, several of the like people of my community have called me up just being like, dude, you have to come to my house and like tell me what I need to do. Like it's obvious that you have your shit together. Like teach me
prepper
your way.
for hire.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So um that seems to be the only problem is like because of my personality, it's super weird. Like I'm super low in agreeableness, but I like to just like hook people up and just like give stuff away for free. And like I easily could monetize stuff, but I just wind up like giving it away for free when
I mean,
I
if you
very
want
well,
to, it doesn't have to be your main. Like, what if you just had like one, I don't know, mulberry bush or whatever, right? And then, uh, some sort of duck herd that goes under that, right? Just got to pick like one combo that works really good.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we just haven't been at this place long enough to know like what that, because each site is going to have like your perfect species that just absolutely loves it there. And it's interesting because our property is kind of like a microcosm of myself, even though I didn't want to buy this property. Um, my wife talked me into it and I'm glad she did because she was right. It's super sweet. But like we have on our property every single species of tree that grows in our ecosystem. Like on my property, I can walk around and not only find like every species, but be like, this is a fucking huge version of it. Like like I have a grand fir that is like 5 feet thick at the base, you know, like 150 feet tall. Like it is just a fucking giga grand fir, you know what I mean? And like there are cottonwoods down there by the stream that are just like 30 inches thick, that are just like fucking huge, and like cedars that are just massive, you know what I mean? Like we have everything here, and it's just kind of like a microcosm of the consciousness that we embody, you know what I mean? It's like I feel like the energy is just like directing. It's super weird because I say like jack of all trades, master of one or whatever, but at the same time I feel like I'm just like drawn so much to being a jack of all trades. Like I probably have horrible ADHD or something.
Probably.
I never got diagnosed or pumped with drugs for it, which I'm grateful for. But
I don't know.
I just like can't seem to stay on the same thing for more than like a year. Other than like permaculture, pretty much. I'm always, you know, bouncing around. So
I think it sounds like you definitely should have a passive solar greenhouse, because then you can, you know, use it as a nursery for all those the trees you got around, right? Because it sound like fucking good ones to clone.
yeah,
That
dude.
would be dope.
I yeah, I fully agree. That's also a root cellar and a passive solar greenhouse, like a big one. I have a small one, and that's the one that I was talking about, how it was like super shittily built. I built it in like 3 days or something, you know, digging it by hand.
How deep does it go on like the back wall?
Like 6 feet, so pretty deep.
Nice job.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but you know, like Mike Ayler said in his greenhouse book, Mike Ayler is the dude who designed the like style of greenhouse that I'm building. It's not, I the next one I build, I want it to be like the design that you showed me
The
with
solar
the like,
slab thing?
yeah, the hypocost
I
or
was
whatever.
just about to bring that up, because if you already have a passive solar, like, you know, the dug in thing, then it would be so easy for you to add basically that exact concept. But all you need to do is you dig it out a bunch, and then you coil that weeping tile, that black stuff, with just
Yeah.
an air fan, and then the fucking crazy physics stuff happens. It's awesome sounding. I
And
honestly,
that's what I,
sorry, carry on.
that's what I want to do. I want to incorporate like that hypocost system just seems so bulletproof to me. Like I seriously do not see how that couldn't work. Just from like even a basic understanding of physics. So that's
Well,
really what.
I'm struggling to remember how to explain it in like any sort of intelligent way, but basically the way it works is in the summer it puts the heat down, right? So the air goes down hot and it gets colder. So somehow it comes out more humid, or maybe in the winter when it goes down, you know, hotter than other air or whatever. Fuck, I've totally lost track of this. But either way, it like helps you in the one and then later it pays off in the other one. And
Yeah.
I
Well, and
mean,
even.
I would put it in a combo where like, you know how your greenhouse has a layer of poly?
Mhm.
All you do is you put a second layer of poly like 5 inches in front of that, and then you put
Yeah.
that air blown out through there, and then, you know, it's like a humidifier, dehumidifier system.
Yeah. And that even with just the like zero kind of like ducting, just like the pure, like you dig a hole, you put the glass, like the cold air sinks down, the warm air rises up. Like even with just that, it performs just amazingly in my climate. Like it's absolutely amazing. So the dude who lived at this place,
Oh
like
no.
he didn't he didn't live here. He started are we still on?
Yeah, sorry, something happened there. But your voice carried through the
Oh,
whole time. You were saying that even without like the heat transfer with the pump, when you just line
yeah.
up the insulation, it works good. That I mean, that's awesome. That's just using it as like a battery, right?
Yeah. But even without that, it functions so well that I'm sure I got to figure out how to I think it was me who fucked that up because my phone just told me that I'm low on battery or whatever. I got to see if I can prop this up a different way.
Uh,
Um,
I mean, we've been going for hours. We've been doing a heck of a good. I mean, fuck, this is good. I like talking about permaculture stuff. If I had land, dude, I would definitely have a pig and then one species of tree that the pig ate, right?
oh
And
yeah,
then
dude, for sure.
just as one of the things, and then that's like almost guaranteed to work. So
Yeah, and that that just echoes what we've been talking about, how you need that like one thing that is like perfect for your property, that is like super individual and unique to like your situation. One of the I made like a tweet storm last night, and I was tweeting all this stuff about, I was just like in the mood of thinking about coronavirus and how much negativity everyone is kind of like embodying with this. And one of the tweets I had was just like, think of a quote that resonates with you specifically and like embody the fuck out of that. For me, one thing that like I just think about all the time, I can't help but think about this. Like everything that happens in my life, if it's something bad or something good, I think of the quote, life is just a game and it's your move. It's like, it's your motherfucking move. Like you get to choose what you do on this. Like, are you going to be a bitch? Are you going to fuck this up? Are you going to or are you going to be a beast? Are you going to do this? Are you going to achieve your dreams? All this stuff. Like, there's really nothing more to it. It's that simple. It's like, are you going to choose to be a bitch and bitch out on what you said you're going to do and what you want to do? Or are you going to be a pimp and are you going to do it? And like, show these results and have everyone be like, oh, fuck yeah. Like,
it's kind
that's
of like you were
cool.
saying before about how humans like adapt to their habitat. You gotta be the engineer of what goes on around you, right?
Well, and that's the thing, that like that's pretty much what you just said is like the definition of a keystone species. You know what I mean? It's
Uh-huh.
like the species in the ecosystem that directs kind of the vibe of everything else in there. And like humans are the keystone species of the entire world. So one super moving quote that, I don't remember who said this. It was either Ben Falk or Jeff Lawton. They're like, how people always talk about how like, oh, dude, there's like way too many people on Earth. Like,
Yeah.
fuck this, man. Like, overpopulation. Like, they're causing climate change and all this bullshit. It's like, whoever it was who had this quote, they're like, there's not too many people on Earth. There's not enough. And to me, that's just like, it's like, fuck yeah. Like, that's what it's about. Like, there's not, here's another Ben Falk quote that goes with that, is he's like, when we talk about carbon footprints, he's like, I don't want a small carbon footprint. I want the biggest carbon footprint possible. I want the biggest negative carbon footprint. Like, people only ever talk about carbon footprint as if it's like a positive thing.
Yeah.
As if you're like adding carbon, like, oh, you went on an airplane, like, well, your carbon footprint is this big. But it's like, you should plant so many trees and so many plants and cycle with your animal system so many nutrients that like your carbon that you existing actually makes things better for everyone. You know what I mean? This is that whole like climate action now bullshit where it's like not a single tree was planted. It's like, yeah, you know, not a single motherfucking tree was planted. Like, go plant some trees. Like,
They're always a good start. A tree is like, well, it's a keystone species, like you're saying. As soon as there's a tree, there are other species around the tree. It's just like a natural law.
yeah,
And
certainly for some species of trees. Yeah.
I mean, the ultimate like is lane cropping, right? Where you got trees and then a crop and then trees and then a crop, right? That
Yeah.
would be that would be how I would want to have like a lot of land. But that you'd have to clone so many trees and you'd want it
I,
all to be diversified and that would be like a lifetime's work, right?
well, I mean, you may or you may not. Like, once again, I'm not in the position to tell anyone how to manage their shit. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a lot of property and you're interested in managing it like this or that, like, be my guest. The thing is, Nietzsche, the philosopher, you know, he said, well, actually, I don't know if this is like a direct quote or not, but something that I learned from him is that in life, from his book, Beyond Good and Evil, it's that, like, even thinking about the concept of good and evil is kind of counterproductive. What you really want to be thinking about is just um, like for example, there's no right and wrong answers, only good and bad answers. You know, like I was a
Yeah.
teacher back in the day, and I would tell this to my students all the time because they were conditioned to believe like, you know, everything was like 2 + 2 = 4. It's either 4, which is the right answer, or there's something else, which is the wrong answer. So they took that same logic and applied it to everything. And it's like, how should you farm? And they're like, oh, well, the right way to farm is like this, and the wrong way to farm is like this. It's like, no, like you can farm however the fuck you want. And there's either like smart ways to do that or stupid ways to do that. And the
Yeah.
smart way to do that is to like set it up in such a way that, um, you know,
It
your
just
system
it
is
always creates
resilient.
value, you know, even in waste products, it's a value.
Exactly, where like you're cycling all the waste, you're creating multiple products, like, you know. And then there's a stupid way of doing it, which is like, you know, you grow a single variety of whatever and then it all gets wiped out, but you're subsidized anyway, so you don't care, and you just kind of go
100%.
about your business.
Yeah, you plant 400 acres of wheat, it gets snowed on, you make the same amount of money.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't care, because they're just stealing all that money anyways, so party on.
Would you ever have a cow on your land, do you think?
I I like want one. I wish I could,
Yeah.
but there's some things like this is like another permaculture principle, just like appropriate use of technology and like understanding how to manage and use land is a technology. You know what I mean? Like if you're stupid, you can completely mismanage your property. You know, language is a technology. Every like item you have is a technology. Like everything that like humans have discovered or like built upon is a technology. So if I'm using technology appropriately, no, I do not think I would ever have a cow. We do not really have the like biomass production in the terms of like species that a cow would eat. We're mainly like super forested over here. Other than like the places where there's roads or buildings, there's seriously like trees like right up alongside my buildings. You know what I mean? We're like super dense forest here. We get a lot of snow, a lot of rain compared to other places in the West. It is super dry over the summer, but like in this particular like region, and even more so in my very particular microclimate, just because there's like a mountain range right over here,
Yeah,
and the
you're
weather usually comes
where
in
you're
from this
at.
way. Yeah, like we probably get like we probably get like 10 more centimeters of precipitation per year than even just like, you know, 10 kilometers down the road that way. You know what I mean? So the game is totally different. And yeah, it's just like mostly forest here. So I don't think a cow would really work. We're really trying to dial in. Chickens are really good here. I fed my chickens like 3 bags of 50-pound bags of grain all winter, which is like absolutely nothing. That's a total joke. Like I probably could have fed them nothing, but even through the winter, you know, and we can get some serious snow here. Like at the local ski resort, they usually report over 10 meters of snow a year, you know, at the summit. And that's some serious shit. You know what I mean? 10 meters of snow, like you're skiing
Oh
through the
yeah.
trees and shit, and like you're just like looking at the very tops of the trees. Like if all that snow melted, you'd hit the ground and you'd die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or you could fall into a tree upside down with your snowboard above you and you're just trapped in this
Yeah,
like cone
yeah,
of death. I
yeah.
killed
Tree wells.
tree
Yeah, I
wells.
wouldn't want to hit any tree wells.
I
But
got in one once when I was snowboarding before, back when I was a kid.
oh,
I
really?
went head first. It was freaky, man, with the snowboard on, because you got to get one foot off first before you're
Yeah,
totally not fucked.
yeah.
But at first there, it's like drowning.
That's crazy. Yeah, I tend to be. I don't know. When I was a little younger, I was super fucking reckless. Like I did some seriously stupid shit, but in general, I feel like
Me too.
I'm very safety inclined, you know? I
Yeah,
just
it's
I
just
don't fuck
a
around
risk, right? I mean,
because like once again,
sorry, carry on once again.
oh, I was saying just like once again, you know, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how little you need.
Yeah,
And since that philosophy guides my life, I just like everything that I do is kind of funneled through that, and getting hurt would just be such a financial burden that I just like can't bring myself to do stupid shit like that anymore, knowing like how expensive it could be when, you know, just spending like a little bit of money. Like, dude, I've gotten fucked in the eyes so many times from little like metal chips flying into my eye and just blinding me for like, you know, 2 or 3 days. You're just sitting there like cursing fate, you know, because it just, no matter what you do, it just like fucking hurts. And
I'm lucky
it's
I
just
got
not
glasses. That
true.
doesn't happen
Yeah,
for me.
that's a pro and a con in and of itself. But like,
100% a con, I would think. I mean, that's like the one pro. I think that's probably literally the only pro, you know?
yeah, that that is the only pro. Uh, my wife just got laser eye surgery because she had glasses her whole life, and yeah, she got it, and it's like glasses are just a thing of the past. You know, it's like for the rest of her life, it's just like you get this gift, and it's sweet. It's fucking expensive though, so
Uh-huh.
watch that.
I know.
Fucking
I've looked into it. I definitely want it, but it's fucking expensive.
yeah, it was like a couple $1,000. It's like
Hmm.
fuck, but you know, it's like a prep. Think of like preparedness and stuff. Like you've got food stored away, you've got like your water, you've got your power, you've got your heat, you've got. But it's like, what if you wore glasses? Like seriously, dude, if shit hit the fan, like today, like if this corona this corona shit got like super real
Yeah.
and they like locked everything down and then your fucking glasses broke, you'd be so fucked, dude.
I mean, I'd be all right. I'm not that bad. It's mostly just an astigmatism. It means that like when I see
Oh,
things far away, it's like the straight lines blur when I wear my glasses. But
okay.
within
You're
like
legit.
8 feet, it's totally fine. I would
Sure.
probably be fucked like if we did have like an apocalypse scenario and I didn't have glasses, because like that's no way to live, not seeing the same, right? It's
Sure.
way better not to have glasses. I totally understand what you're saying. Fuck, I hate
Yeah.
having glasses.
It in my wife's case, dude, like if she didn't have her glasses on, like she could not see shit. I'd be like, what does that sign say? It'd be like super clear and she'd be like, I have no clue. You know what I mean? So I guess it's different for like everybody or whatever. But if it's bad enough that you would be fucked without your glasses, then it's like damn dog, you know, like you got to spend your money on that. um
I mean,
I don't
I'm
know.
super fucked if shit does hit the fan. Like, you know, I'm an injured person. I'm not what's gonna cut it in this post-apocalyptic world.
Well, that's bullshit, man. Like seriously, straight up, dude. And that's what I'm trying to like combat is that uh there's a lot of people who think like that, and I just like I do not accept that. Like
Sure.
everybody has that niche and everybody has something to offer, and like people, once again, like I said before, like the perfect is the enemy of the good. You know what I mean? It's like nobody is 100% self-sufficient. That's why, like, the very first thing, I have this tweet from a while ago. I was like, yo, if one person likes this tweet, I'll go panic buy a radio. And like Shudra,
That's awesome.
you know, like he was the like only one who liked it or whatever. Obviously I was gonna do it anyways, you know what I mean? It was kind of like funny or whatever. But like one of the only things that I went and panic bought was like a radio. Like, dude, this is the kind of radio where like you can talk to anyone over the entire world. Like I instinctually knew. I was like, oh shit, like if shit is hitting the fan, like communication is what it's about. And like I told all my friends, I was like, go and buy just like a super, like the cheapest UHF VHF radio that you can, because like we'll be able to talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
uh,
it's constant communication unless they have like a blocker, unless they block the radio, but that's ridiculous. Nobody, that's not
I
fair.
mean, they're not going to do that because like they're using radio themselves, so they're not going to block the very thing that they're using. But uh like nobody, you know, no man is an island or whatever, as they say. And I think people like get caught up on this. They fall for the lie of like master of all trades. You know what I mean? Like if we're talking about jack of all trades or whatever, like you have to be a master of, like you need to be able to grow 100% of your own food, like
Yeah. The
100% of
master of all
everything,
trades is a good way to put it.
100%. It's like nobody can do that, and the only way that anyone is going to get through anything is by, like that's what markets are, you know, that's the economy is
Yeah.
being like, yo, like I don't have to be a master of everything. I'm gonna be a master of this and trade for everything. So I don't know. It's interesting to see how this is panning out and just what's gonna come of it. Because I mean, ultimately, no one really knows. Even the people kind of steering all of this. So
Oh, that's guaranteed, right? Of course, they have no idea what's about to happen.
they've probably got a better idea than us, though. You
You
know what
would
I
think.
mean?
It's totally mind-boggling to think what'll happen in 4 months, after all of this quarantine stuff everywhere and all the supermarkets just trying to refill and like what it's gonna look like fucking in the middle of like October,
Well, and that's the thing is like focusing on that. That's the
it's not
level
positive. Yeah.
that people get stuck at. They like think about that. They like go from whatever, and then they get there, and then they stop. But it's like, who cares? Like, design your life so that it doesn't matter what happens. Like, it's like that Jack Spirko quote, you know, helping you live that better life if times get tough or even if they don't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Even
It's
if
like
they don't.
design your life so that it is how you want and it's dialed in so that you're happy. The economy, everything could be just like absolutely wonderful, and or it could be total shit, and it's going to be an asset. And that's like one of the biggest things from all of this like coronavirus stuff. Somebody sent out a tweet a while ago, and the question was like, what was the most important thing you learned from like the coronavirus outbreak so far? And people were like saying all these things, and I quote tweeted it, and I was like, who in my friend group, who are the assets and who are the liabilities? Like, ultimately, that's what's important. Like, if you've got people who you interact with who are like despairing and being all negative and just like, you know, fucking around, wasting all of their time, not preparing, all this stuff, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if the coronavirus is like, it burns out, you know, if the government made the perfect decision in all of the cases and they took care of the problem, like, you're gonna benefit from having a bigger garden. You're gonna benefit from having more like independence in whatever way. You can't lose. It's impossible. But you know, the people who are despairing and getting all negative and stuff, like, they're the people who are liabilities because they're not willing to actually do anything. They just like want to get stuff and not have to work for it. And, you know, having to work for something is what gives it its value in a certain sense. It's almost like Marxist to say like the human labor value of theory or whatever. But there is,
I mean, but the real value is getting something that's like I was reading this tweet by the guy Naval, and he was talking about wealth, and he said that wealth is different than money because money, it fluctuates in value, but wealth always increases. You know, that's like exactly what you're talking about. Like you gotta rig everything to constantly just make everything better. But that that's all of perma. That's the best thing about permaculture.
I know, obtain a yield, you know, like
Obtain a yield. Yeah.
abundance. And exactly. I love that quote that you just said, by that guy, that tweet or whatever that you read, because that's just spot on. And I don't know. It's just crazy to me. I'll never understand why people wouldn't embrace that. You know, like, to me, working, even if I didn't need like anything, and I know this is true because I've like lived this, where I offer people shit for free like all the time and just give stuff away. Not because like I'm like this good person or whatever, but just because like you need something to do. You know what I mean? Like, you have to occupy your day
Yeah.
and your night or whatever, depending on how little sleep you get. You know, I'm super insomniac. I'm often found, you know, awake until 4 a.m. or whatever. But you've got like a certain amount of time in the day. And how are you going to spend it? Like, how are you going to spend it? It's not like some comparison or whatever. It's like, you need to be comfortable with yourself because like you're answering to your conscience and your values. And if you're the kind of person who is like so fucking weak in your values and so just like unprincipled that you'll like sit around and play video games like all fucking day. Like seriously, some people just like wake up, play
Oh, I've
video
been
games.
there.
Me too, dude. Like me
Yeah.
too. When I was a teenager, I remember like, dude, I'm so sickened by this. I remember this one time my mom and dad went out of town for like a week and they got this babysitter. It was like the daughter of some friend or whatever. You know, she was like in college and she's like, whatever, I'll like stay at your house and watch your kids. Like I played video games from like the second I woke up to the second I went to sleep, like every single day. And when the chick tried to like get me off of them, I just like raged, you know, like I just like couldn't
What
handle it.
year was this?
What year? Oh
Ish.
man,
I guess I'm kind of trying to like place like I'm
probably
guessing you
like,
were a kid, right? So
yeah, probably like the year 2000 approximately.
around the year 2000. What year were you born, if you don't mind?
1989.
So you're literally 2 years older than me. We're very, very close. We're like in the exact same generation. So like I know exactly what you're talking about. Waking up with like a Super Nintendo and playing Mario Brothers for like fucking
Yeah,
12
dude.
hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were kids at the same time.
Yeah. Dude, and honestly, when I was naive, this whole like coronavirus thing, like I truly believe that this is an absolute shift of consciousness. This is like the wheel of fortune, just like
Yeah, it
you
it was on like a
know, like,
pebble and then it just lurches.
yeah, and it's just like clunk, like it has slammed into uh a new era, and like this is the rules of the game have changed. Like this is Teotihuacan, you know what I mean? Like it's not a SHTF. This is way more close to a Teotihuacan, like end of the world as we know it, because it's not an end of the world situation. It's just the
It's
end of the world
changed.
as we know it. Yeah.
It's
It's
like
like this.
Shooter says, you know, it's like Peasant 2.0, right? We're not going back to Peasant
Exactly.
1.0. We're going to Peasant
Yeah.
2.0, which has all of this new shit. And it's not the same at all, but it has certain, you know, certain
Yeah.
similarities, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, precisely. Like it's the same. Like the more stuff changes, the more it stays the same. Same shit, different day. Like you can't escape this. So the only course of action in my mind is to do what history has shown is the smart move, and that's just to like be a fucking beast. You know what I mean? Like be a leader, inspire people to do better. Um,
And have
like
more than one output, right? Because if one goes down, you need more.
yeah,
Right.
have like so many outputs that like you're just this like beacon of goodness. You know, one of my favorite quotes, I was talking earlier about quotes that motivate me. One of my favorite quotes, and I think about this just like all the time, is the good pours itself out. This is from St. Thomas Aquinas. The good pours itself out. I love that. It's just like if you are like being true to yourself and being just like creating value and doing all this shit, it's just gonna like radiate out and permeate like everybody around you in such a way that like everybody's gonna want to be around you, everybody is gonna want to like interact with you. And I mean, just think about it. Like, if you have two identical services and like this dude's a total asshole and this dude is cool, like, which one is everyone going to want to interact with? It's like the cool guy. You know, another phrase that motivates me is just like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And
That's a good one.
if you like if you do a shitty job or whatever on something, it's like, what would make anyone believe that you're going to do a good job on anything? You know what I mean? It's just like, put your heart into it. Only do shit that like you want to do, because there's other people that don't try to like fill a niche that you don't want to fill. You know what I mean? Like, just fucking fill a niche that you want to fill, because you're going to do a better job at that. Leave that other niche for someone else. And so many people just get like funneled into a job that they don't like. And another like super sound piece of wisdom that I heard was, one of my friends was telling me, there's like a spectrum of stuff that you do, where on one end of the spectrum, it's stuff that you just like hate doing. You know, there's simply things in life that you just have to do that are non-negotiable. You just have to do them. You hate doing them, but you do them. And then there's things on this side that you absolutely love doing. You would do them for free. They just fulfill you.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, this is super sage wisdom, insanely sage wisdom. I don't know where he got this from, but he told this to me. He's like, and this is actually super interesting, because we've talked a couple times about how like our society is bifurcating into these two extremes. He was saying that like there should be no middle ground. You like, if you have like X amount of hours in a certain time period, you know, you have 24 hours a day, so spend like however many hours doing the shit that you just like absolutely hate but makes the most money possible. You know what I mean? Kind of like how I was saying my cutoff is $50 an hour. Like, even if I don't enjoy
Oh. Uh-oh, you froze again.
don't enjoy it. Yo, by the way, this is another permaculture thing, in terms of like, there's a permaculture principle, which is like respect limitations or accept feedback or something like that. I don't remember the exact articulation of it, but like, I don't have internet at my place. I'm sure like this call is getting fucked up because of me or
Oh no, it's
whatever.
fine, man. I mean, it's cut out like 3 times. It's no big deal. Shit happens. It's just
Mhm. Well, but that's the point. It's just like, who gives a fuck? Like, if it cuts out, like it cuts back in and you're good to go. Like, be okay with the fact that, like, dude, it's fucking amazing, man. Like, I'm talking to you on
uh-huh.
video. Like, I'm seeing you like face to face. You live in fucking Canada. I'm in the United States. Like, that is fucking amazing, man. Like, that's what we should focus on, not like, people get like so pissed or whatever that like shit doesn't work or whatever. It's like, how about you like inject some gratitude in your life, you know, and like be amazed at what's possible. You know, like, dude, what are the chances that, were it not for like the internet, that we ever even would have like been within like 50 degrees of separation to each other? You know what I mean?
It's insane what the internet is like. It's a completely undiscussed variable. You know what I mean? Like in school, they talk about all the history and all that shit, and never once had anything like the internet. Yeah, man. I totally agree. Now is the most amazing time to be alive. I wouldn't trade it for any other, like if they ask you that question, like if you had a time machine, where would you go to?
Oh, dude,
It would probably just be like
my
30 years in
birthday.
the future,
Yeah.
you know, figure out
And
what happens, come back, get rich off betting on it, and then
yeah, that would be nice. But I totally know what you mean, man. Like, when I was younger, before, I feel like before I understood things or whatever, I had a little more wisdom. I used to say, it was like a mantra of mine, that I was born either 100 years too early or 100 years too late, because I just feel like, given my personality, I would have like really done well in like the late 1800s, you know, or I don't even know what the weird thing is, like, I don't even know what I meant by 100 years too early, you know, like, what makes me think I would be good in whatever society is going to look like there. But I totally know what you mean, because like, dude, the very like second I was born was just the perfect combination of factors for like me and like my personality traits. It's super weird, actually. One thing I've been thinking about recently is everything that happens and like everything that I see in life is like so perfectly tuned to all of these like little coincidences. Like the only other explanation other than like somebody planned this out would be that it's a coincidence. And there's so many of these in my life that I'm beginning to like refuse to believe that it could be a coincidence. It's just like the amount of coincidences that would have to happen to for all of the events that have led me to like exactly where I'm at today would have to be so immense that I just like can't accept that anything is a coincidence anymore. So yet another quote that motivates me is just that like life happens for you. You know, like anything that happens in your life, that's like the universe telling you, or like me or whatever, that like there's a lesson to be learned. There's like something that needs to happen. Like there's always a choice. um Jordan Peterson, you know, I love Jordan Peterson, or I loved him. I can't say I love him anymore, because I haven't really
Yeah,
like,
kept up.
yeah, kept up with him or anything. But back in the day, like several years ago, and this was before he was even famous, you
Yeah,
know, I was following him when he was just some like Toronto
dude,
professor.
Toronto was yelling at some lady.
Yeah, you know, he was just like some idiot or whatever.
Oh, he
And
had good points. They were trying to make him fucking talk their their game, and he was like, "Fuck that! You just want me to do what you want." I
mhm.
don't know. I don't know. It's totally
Well,
crazy. The Jordan Peterson story. So many people are like really, really against it. So many people are just I don't even understand.
I mean, yeah, if people are against him, it's once again, it's just like fine. Like I don't care. Like you can be against or for whatever you want. Like
Go for it.
don't, yeah.
What thing that he said are you particularly against? Because I mean, it's hard to argue with everything. Like, clean your room. That's always a good idea.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like some of it's just things everybody would agree with.
But one quote that he had was that you don't get to choose the price. You only get to choose which price you pay. And I think that is just like so profound, which matches with like yet another quote, is that you can either suffer the pain of sacrifice or the pain of regret. So I'm
A good
presented
one.
with a situation. I'm presented with a situation. I can either take the easy way out and do whatever the fuck I want, or I can take the hard way, make a huge sacrifice, and it'll pay off. It's like those are the only two solutions in any situation. Like somebody, like seriously, like anybody who's listening, tweet me at M_R_J_Smith. Hit me with an example of anything that you can think of that like has a potential, that like is the exception to this rule. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you that I will be able to think of the like way of thing about it that fits into this example. You know, pain of regret, pain of sacrifice. You either choose, like, and everybody knows, like, in the moment, there is that moment where you decide, you're like, I'm going to bitch out, I'm going to take the easy way, or like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to do what I set out to do. And if you do the like second of those, it always turns out like things turn out way better than you would have hoped. Stuff just like seems to work out. It's like, oh, what a coincidence, you know, like everything is seeming to work out. Or if you choose the shitty path and you're like, I'm going to bitch out, I'm going to take the easy way, I'm going to try to get out of this, you get fucked like 100% of the time. And, you know, just with like all the shit that's been happening in the world, regardless of what's happening, you know, I just want to restate, regardless of what's happening, if you choose to voluntarily undergo the pain of sacrifice, it'll pay absolute dividends in the future, because you just won't be suffering that regret from what you did, from what you failed to do. You know, like hearing about all this coronavirus shit, I mentioned earlier, like I grabbed my tractor and cleared some new garden space. It's like, am I going to regret building a bigger garden? It's like, no, I'm not going to regret that. Like, even if stuff is totally fine, like there will be no regret in my heart about growing more food. The worst possible case scenario is that I'll be giving away food for free so that it doesn't like rot in my garden or whatever, from me not being able to harvest it all. However, on the other hand, if I want to pursue just like base pleasure and play video games all day and not do shit or whatever, and stuff goes bad, then I'm going to have some seriously deep regrets. I'm going to be like, man, I can't fucking believe that I was like sitting there not doing shit, you know, just like sitting there playing video games or whatever, when I knew that I should have planted those trees, planted those plants, started those seeds, you know, like got those chickens, got those rabbits, got those pigs, got those goats, learned what I needed to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's totally. I mean, we both absolutely agree about the whole permaculture thing. We should talk about blacksmithing, because you've got a pretty dope forge. It's got those 3 burners. Did you make those burners?
No. So this is another thing just about like putting energy and vibrations out there. A long time ago, I like told one of my friends that I wanted to get into blacksmithing. This was like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even more, maybe like 8 or 9. But I just threw it out there, you know, as one of those things. And like years later, like 5 years later, you know, we had met in one place and we moved apart, and, you know, we were kind of like long distance friends or whatever. We didn't really talk that much. But one day he was like, yo, I've got like all this extra crap. I'm putting it on a truck. I'm bringing it down here. You can have it for free if you want it. And he gave me that forge. That was like the thing that he like remembered that I had mentioned blacksmithing or something. So he just like gave me this forge for free. And so I don't really know anything about like the construction, whether he made it or he bought it or whatever, but
Do you
it's
know
super
how
nice.
the propane goes into it? Is it like a little MIG valve above the thing, or does it go from like the tube into a T, or like
Yeah, it's the tube into the T, so it's like Venturi or whatever.
that's the same kind mine is, but I've only got the one.
Yeah, and this has the 3, which is nice. Like I've
Yeah.
melted steel in my forge. If you like crank it to 11 and leave it in there for a while. It's crazy, man. Like the fire bricks on the bottom,
Just glow.
you like take the bricks out and they're just like bright white, like even not in the fire. It's just like if you touched that for even like a millionth of a second, you would just get so seared. It's not even funny. Just, it's like bright white. It's like you pull a brick out of something and the brick itself, you have it in the tongs and it's just glowing like so fiercely white. I can't even imagine. You know, you think of like medieval tortures and stuff with like the hot piece of
Yeah.
iron poking people.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, my heart is filled with fear. If someone was coming at me with one of those things,
Hot
like
pokers, yeah.
it's like, fuck, man, you know? Like you've gotten burned, you know, you were posting those pictures on Twitter of you getting burned by that thing. Like I've gotten burned too. It's like it happens so fast. Like you just touch it and it sears you and it just like melts your finger.
Mine
It's
fell out of the
crazy.
goddamn vice grips and it like flipped because it was an S curve. And as it
Yeah.
flipped, I got it on the fingers and I was like, ah, shoot, I feel dumb. Should be wearing gloves, but I'm not.
Yeah. Dude, there's been many times when like you're holding, it's particularly when there's like a piece that's like really long in one dimension and really skinny in the other. So you're trying to hold something that's like really thin. And if it's like this or whatever in this dimension, you hit it and the force causes it to flip up. And like you hit it on the anvil and then you just see this like glowing piece of metal fly by your head and hit the ceiling. You're just like, dude, if that thing would have like hit me in the face,
Yeah. Or like
it would
hit
like,
flat and stuck, like ruin the
yeah,
whole
exactly.
brand.
Yeah, like it would all be over. You know, if it just like hit you in the eye or something, your eye would just get like melted.
I'm working on a pair of tongs. As soon as I finish those, I will be happy to do more things. I like the idea of blacksmithing where it makes your own tools. Like making those guillotine dies, that shit is exactly why I like blacksmithing. That is, you know, I mean, obviously that involves a little bit of welding, but nowadays that's just like why wouldn't you include welding in blacksmithing, right?
Yeah, dude. Exactly. Like to me, I don't even think of it as like blacksmithing versus welding versus fabrication versus die making. You know, there's like so many I just think of it as like making shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and like whatever the fuck you need to do to make what you need, like fucking do it. You know, like if anybody tries to like criticize you or whatever, it's like fuck you, man. Like like what do you have to say about this? Like I made what I needed. Like there's nothing more to be said. So there's purists and shit, but yeah, like the welder, oh man, the welder in particular is just such a useful tool.
Uh,
That's such a useful tool. Anybody listening, I I'll give you all you need to know on the welder. Get a BuzzBox AC welder, like the shittiest thing you can find from a garage sale for the cheapest price. Get 330 seconds, 7014 rod, turn it all the way to max power, and just like go for it. That's all you need to know about welding. Mark my words, it'll work. 7014 rod, 330 seconds diameter, max amperage, shitty BuzzBox.
Glad you
Go.
said that because that is my plan. That is like top of my list of things. And I was literally leaning towards just an AC buzz box. I didn't know what kind of rods to get. That's fucking awesome.
That's all you need. Like timestamp that. I stand by that. It
Yeah.
seriously works. It seriously works for everything. Like I've welded everything from the tiniest little things where you've got your like electrode and you just like and you take it away and you've just got this perfect little weld for tiny little parts. I've done everything from that to welding my trailer, you know, like the leaf springs on my trailer rusted out. I bought it used, and they were going, and I kept it for a couple more years, and it held in there, but they finally went out. And when I went to go replace the leaf springs, I found out they just got it from like a junkyard or whatever, and it was some random springs that nobody, like, you couldn't replicate it, you know what I mean? Because like we had no fucking clue where they came from. So I had to weld all new mounting brackets for the springs. But the thing is, like, the springs, the holes are like perfectly spaced in every dimension, you know? So they had to be just like absolutely perfect. And that was I seriously like learned more from that. That was like a 2-year welding trade school education right there. You know, just like having to figure out how to get everything to line up absolutely perfectly so that like these holes that you drilled, you could like fit a bolt through the hole, through the spring, and then
And
through
through the
another
other
hole,
hole, yeah.
and on the other side have it go through this hole, the spring, and then another hole on the other side. It's like way more challenging than you'd imagine. And
I understand that.
I
It's like
basically got
machine.
I basically got like a 2-year welding education in a week. And that's the thing, like with YouTube and all this shit, you can get that education in an absolutely amazing amount of time. Just like nothing.
You can learn how to make these crazy climate battery greenhouses, you know, grow crazy species that you couldn't before.
Well, and not only that, but like even if you never do it, like you've shared some like files with me and some shit, and we've shared stuff together that even if you never like do that exact thing, learning kind of the general idea, you can apply it to other stuff and use that to like do other things. So
I mean,
it's just
always good to
like
learn.
what?
It's always good to learn, right? Like you learn one thing and it helps you be better at like 6 other things you didn't know it would be, right? And then back to
Exactly.
life
And
is over.
yeah, because like everything is, man, the in permaculture, just the idea of a fractal. I love how permaculture interprets fractals, how, you know, you've got a resolution level and it, you know, looks like this, and you zoom in and it looks like this. But if you zoom in, it looks exactly the same as when you were like this, you know, and then you zoom in again and it's the same, and you zoom in again and it's the same. And that's just the way shit is. Like everything is just like patterns. And
There's just infinite depth. You can look at it and find a new.
exactly, yeah.
It's funny because that's almost the whole beauty of it, but it's also the reason why you couldn't get like a conventional business loan for it. So like it has the pros and cons built in. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
like,
really a con of it though. It's more like a con of just the rigid monoculture crazy system that it's trying to deal with, right?
yeah, I would definitely call that a kind of the supporting system
Yeah,
rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
the ideology itself. But, you know, other people might disagree, and you're free to disagree if you want, you know, listeners or whatever. Hit it in the comments, and we'll hit you back, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
fuck. It's been quite the permaculture podcast. We've we've talked about your passive solar greenhouse. You talked about chickens. What what are you planning to like clone for the chickens, you know? What's something that chickens eat that grows well?
For the chickens, honestly, I'm amazed by the chickens because this year
we had a shitload of chickens. We had like way too many. It was one of those work trade things where someone needed some stuff done. I went and did it for them, and they gave us like 50 chickens, in return. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll take 50 chickens for payment. And it was just way too many chickens. And we had like hundreds of eggs. We just had like piles upon piles of eggs. And we are just giving them away like as fast as we could, because you'd go into the coop and there would just be this mountain of eggs every single day. So it was almost to the point where we couldn't even like profit off of it because it was too overwhelming.
Yeah, it
So
took
we
too
were
much
just
work to
giving them away.
maintain to make a profit.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was easier just to like give them away. And I don't know, they're a really weird animal, because like I love chickens because they're super useful. They're like one of the most versatile multi-purpose animals in existence. Just that like you can feed seriously anything to them. You can feed like straight up shit and garbage to them, and they'll eat it and turn it into eggs. And you don't need to feed like any grain. Like seriously, in my climate, there's snow on the ground like 4 or 5 months of the year where like you can't even see the ground. And I didn't feed my chickens hardly anything. 3 50-pound bags of grain is what I fed them. And they just like made it happen. They went and ate buds off trees or whatever. I have no idea. The compost, from our kitchen, just we cook pretty much all of our food from raw ingredients, which is another skill that's going to come in super handy in the coming days, being able to cook
Yeah.
from just straight up, like, here's a plant in its raw form. Can you eat it or not? Like, this is an edible. Like, if you give someone like a grain plant, you know what I mean? Like a wheat sheath or whatever, like most people would have no fucking clue what to do with that. They wouldn't know how to like thresh it, how to get the seeds, how to grind them, what to do with that once you got it, like once you ground it into flour, like what do you do with that flour? It's like every step of the way we got that on lock, other than growing it. That's one hole in our system is, growing the calories. Spearco says you should like grow your nutrients by your calories, but it would be nice to be able to grow your calories just from like a pure resilience standpoint. Calories are super important too. So I
You
don't
mean
know.
like grow the nutrition near, like, so yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. Like, I mean, for me, it would be pigs and they would eat anything, crab apples, acorns, just whatever falls on the ground, they'll eat it. But chicken, it's kind of got to be like a little berry or whatever. Like,
In my experience, chickens will pretty much chickens. I have a love-hate relationship with chickens. I kind of hate them just because like they're the nastiest, like just like dirty, um if you think of the word foul,
yeah,
it it just doesn't seem like a coincidence that the word foul literally means like chickens, ducks, geese, and like horrible, nasty, yucky. You know what I mean? Like it's the same word. It sounds exactly the same. It's not spelled the same or whatever, but it just seems like too much of a coincidence. Just like whenever I like lift up the door to like go in the chicken coop and like get the eggs and stuff, it's just like negative vibes. I don't know. It's just bad energy. I take really good care of my chickens. I have a mobile tractor and we like bring them around. They're clean or whatever, but it's just like the very nature of them. They're just like, if you walk up to them and you
It's like
have
pigs,
food.
man. I feel the same about pigs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I worked on a pig farm a little bit, and watching the little demon piglets just be pigs, and they were off running. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I've earned a disliking of this thing, a slight. I love it for everything it is, but
Yeah, yeah.
it has a certain thing that I don't like.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's just like, I don't know if anyone would ever be able to name it. They just seem like so, I don't know, whatever. But our chickens just started laying eggs, so I'm happy about that.
I was gonna finish that chicken coop today, but I got caught up doing a bunch of. I mean, we've been doing a podcast here. I can't be out, and also it's late. You can't use power tools at night. That's just. Hold on, my watch is not set on the time. Oh fuck, my watch said 11. It's not 11. It's 1. But whatever.
Oh,
Uh
yeah. It is pretty late. Damn. We've been at this for like 3 hours, dude.
huh. Yeah, we've been crashing it. I feel like
Yeah.
that passive solar greenhouse thing is just only going to get more important. You know.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Straight up. Like, seriously, even if the only interaction like we ever had on Twitter or whatever was like you sharing with me that greenhouse shit, that would be so beneficial because like passive systems, that's the way of the future. It's all about those passive systems. Like you set this shit up, you do whatever the fuck you want, you go do other stuff, you come back, maybe a little management with like the Arduinos and the automation and all the like shit that you can do. It's like maybe you like program a little whatever, or you find someone, one of your homies on Twitter and trade for something or buy some shit off them. It's just like, why, what reasonable person would not do that? You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's almost like a logical necessity that you have to do that.
It makes perfect sense. We do have to do that, right? You can't say it's like you were saying before. You're not saying other people have to be like this. Fucking do whatever you want, but like if you're trying to do it in a way that makes it so much easier for you, then you just have to see that that's common sense, right? You
I know, but
just let it work, and it'll work.
yeah, I mean, it's so simple. But there's that Mollison quote, one of my favorite quotes of anything of all times. The world's problems become increasingly complex, but the solutions remain embarrassingly simple.
Yeah.
It's just like, damn, like, damn, that just summarizes it. The solutions are the problems are increasingly complex. It's just like with all the shit that's going on in the world, stuff, it's just like overwhelming. And what I'm all about is just being like fucking do it. Like let's be what we want to be, like fucking do it. It's like the Shia LaBeouf thing.
Yeah.
Like
Just fucking do it.
there's
Yeah,
some
dude.
truth to that though. You know what I mean? Like there's some truth to that. Like he articulates it in a super shitty way, which is he makes a joke of it and a mockery. But
People mock anything these days. The
yeah,
more
but people
serious the
mock it.
thing is, the more they mock it.
Yeah. So there's embodied truth in everything, and the just do it, like the Nike logo and the Shia LaBeouf thing.
Or like
There's
Jocko Willink, discipline is
yeah,
freedom. If you don't have
yeah,
discipline, you're just trapped.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And as we move forward, it's interesting. Um, Before, I felt this sense of depression in my life, just malaise or whatever you want to call it. Something just like didn't seem right. You know, I was living my life and I knew in my heart that what I was doing was right. I've been trying to like live my life in a way that is like pretty cool by my own standards and something that I'm proud of. But even despite doing so much, I just like didn't feel in my heart that I was doing the right thing. And this whole coronavirus, like new world order shit, it's really just ignited the flame back in my heart that like everything that I do is for a reason, and everything that I do is, it's like intentional. And when you do something with intention, you have that like transfer of spiritual energy to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you're in court or whatever, if you get like accused of a crime, the jury considers what your intention was. Like, oh, you know, if you like were trying to kill this dude, then it's murder. But if it was an accident, then it's manslaughter. It's kind of like that exact same idea. But if you just like happen to live in a place where, you know, you moved into a house where there's like trees, like fruit trees, nut trees, bushes, all this shit, and you like harvest it, that has like a certain karmic energy associated with it. But if you moved into just like a straight up parking lot and you like busted up all that asphalt like by hand, brought in all the soil, like planted your cover crops, planted your production plants, all this stuff, it like means way more to the person who earned it. And I think this is just like a wake up call for our culture that it's now non-negotiable. You know what I mean? Like everybody envisions themselves in their mind as somebody who would, particularly like libertarians and anarchists, I feel are this way, is they envision themselves as like somebody who could take care of it. You know, it's like, oh, if shit hit the fan, like I could take care of it. And it's like, well, that's only theoretical. You know what I mean? There's nothing like, there's no way to prove or disprove that other than living through it. And I feel like this is the moment where we really see like who's going to be the people who make it through it and who's not. You know, the people who are fucking around, wasting their time, enjoying themselves on their like vacation or whatever because they know they're gonna get a check or whatever. It's like, okay, thank you for letting me know that you are not like worth associating with. And for everyone else who are like trying to strive, trying to make the world better, it's like, okay, you're the kind of person that I want to be around. And everybody can build each other up, because if you're like attracted to people who want to make the world better, they're going to make the world better because that's a positive reinforcement in behavior. And they're going to do that, and then it's going to inspire you to make the world better, and you're going to try to do it, and then that's going to inspire them. And alternatively, you can try to make the world worse and have a downward spiral, and everyone else just get more and more negative. I just don't think that's going to serve anyone. That doesn't seem smart to me. You know, listeners, you can decide for yourselves, but like seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you if you like don't agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, some people are just, they're a vacuum for energy. You can put an infinite amount of energy in, and it's just, you know, they're always gonna absorb.
I just refuse to accept that. You know, like you're right. I agree with you, and you're right. But like
I
that's
don't
one side of
mean
the coin.
it's all they are, right? Just that's, sometimes it seems like that is very common
Well,
on
it
other
is,
sides, right?
and my problem isn't that that's the case. It's like, why does that have to be the case? It's like, that's inescapable. You know, people have been like that since the beginning of time. And it's like, why? Like, why not see what we're doing over here is beautiful, is wonderful? Like, be a part of it, contribute, expand, burst forth, like do all of this positive shit, but then, you know, when the rubber comes to the road, they do the opposite. That's the fundamental problem of humanity, that I don't know if it even is solvable, but if it is solvable, I have no solution.
Well, it's like you were saying, you know, your solution is to be more individually self-sustained, because no matter what other people do, then it won't impact you, right? That's
Yeah. I guess, like, if I had to give one little morsel of advice to anyone in, you know, the modern world or whatever, who's listening, like, in 2020, this isn't for archaeologists or whatever who are listening, you know, hundreds of years from now, but it's just like, be a motherfucking asset for your community. Do not be a liability. Like, the time for fucking around is over. What you have is what you have. Use it how you got it, and fucking, like, ball out and do this not just for yourself. Like, it will benefit you if you follow my advice. I guarantee it. This has been so clear throughout history that I have no doubt in my mind that I'm correct. But don't do it just for yourself. It's for, like, everyone else. And if you help other people and just, like, sacrifice for the good of others, that karma, or whatever you want to call it, karma's the best kind of general term that I've heard of,
I get what
but
you mean.
you know, that will come back and be returned to you. And it'll just seem like there's two possible scenarios. One is that shit will just seem to work out for you, and you'll be, like, amazed. You'll be like, oh man, like, it's crazy how whatever happened, and, like, now this, like, I can't believe it. Or that's one option. That's the good option. If you, like, adopt the positive energy. If you adopt the negative energy, then you'll be like, I can't believe this happened to me. This is so shitty. Like, I can't believe it. And it's like, you get to choose, like, what your mentality is and how you conduct yourself. Like, that's the thing that's going to determine whether it goes this way or that way. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, you are what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. You are what you do.
It's crazy times to be you know, a jack of all trades, master of none, like, because I've done basically the same thing as you. I didn't waste much time in college before I dropped out, and I went to become a tradesperson, and then I just learned how to do a bunch of things because I expected them to help me, you know, like later
Mm-hmm.
on. And now it's complicated because I'm injured, so I can't really use most of what I like could be doing, but it's all extremely helpful, right? Like, once you learn how to do something, you've learned how to, like, you know, learn.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is that everything, that's why, you know, earlier I was talking about one of the quotes that motivates me is, like, I'm grateful for the events that have brought me here. Like, it doesn't matter whether or not shit that I've done in my past, like, benefits me necessarily. With the progression of all this coronavirus shit, I often think about, I'm just like, the world that I live in now is just absolutely nothing like the world that I thought I lived in 2 months ago. You know what I mean? It's like so different now than what it was. The rules have just completely changed, that even in your mind, conceptualizing it in those archaic terms is only going to be harmful. So the only thing to do is just to blaze a path forward. And the only way to blaze a path forward in this is to like, is just to be as principled as fuck. And like, I don't even know how to describe it. I've just had this shift in my mind. Like myself, I'm a totally different person than the person I was 2 months ago. You know, just having realized this, since all this coronavirus shit went down, you know, like not a single person in our county or city or whatever, no one has gotten it. No one's tested positive, any of that. But I've lost like 5 pounds of weight just because I've been too busy working, you know. I've been like out there like doing the shit that needs to be done, and I feel better than ever. Like I was so depressed before, because I wouldn't say so depressed, but like, you know, I struggled with depression previously because I just like didn't know what to do with my life. But now it's just so abundantly clear. It's like, it doesn't matter what you do, you just need to do it. Another phrase that governs my life is, it's better to be strongly wrong than weakly right. I love that. Just like, if you're gonna believe something, fucking believe it. Like, embody it. Who cares? Just like go for it. And like, would you rather be just like an absolute beast who goes for what he believes in, or some pussy bitch who kind of goes with the majority or just what everyone says? It's like, that's no way to live.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, you get that like some people try so hard not to conform that they just conform with non-conformity. It's so funny when you see the
Yeah.
cookie cutter goth. Just makes me laugh.
Yeah. It is pretty pathetic, and I do feel bad for those people.
I
But
mean,
at the
whatever
same
you want to
time,
do with your life, you know, fucking do you. But some people, the logic, they just don't tie it together.
but the thing is, I don't know if this is true of everyone, but for me, if I see a cookie cutter goth, I can instantly identify them as that. And it's just like, it's sad and pathetic. But if I see a goth who's like truly embodying that emotion, like their appearance is completely synergistic with their actions, I actually respect the fuck out of that. And I think like it looks super cool. It, you know, like the vibe they give off is super high energy. Like, I love it. You know, if someone actually embodies it and they live it, they don't just look it, they're not just going to Hot Topic or whatever and buying all the bullshit. You know, they're like embodying their principles. In as far as I see it, it's like, yes, I love you, keep going, like, let's do business, let's do whatever, let's associate, you're cool, you know, I like you. But for all those posers, it's like, fuck you guys. Like, go find your niche, go find your whatever, like whatever you need to do to feel good about yourself, just go do it and own it. Like, you have to own it. The era for not being able to own shit is over. If there's anything that I can communicate, it's just like, whatever you do, like, don't waste a single second of your life from here on out fucking around, doing stupid shit, whatever. It's like, you, not just you, everybody, me, we all need to just own our actions and go for it, because that's the only thing that's going to get us through this. That and community, a good community.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I don't really get the whole staying like a ghost. You gotta just say what you fucking think and own up to it, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's another thing that Jordan Peterson taught me was just like that truthful speech has the power to affect reality for the better. Like you have nothing to lose by being truthful.
Oh, you cut out. Fuck. I forgot I got goddamn school tomorrow.